I became the god of light. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction. So don't try any techniques you hear here in real life, your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author. We're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 278 People from the Thunder Tribe arrive. With this thought in anticipation, the people of the small tribe migrated towards the Yanhuang tribe. The old priest, seeing these anxious, disheveled, and filthy people, showed no disgust. Instead, he welcomed them all. The Yanhuang tribe was desperately short of people, and thanks to the divine miracle, food was no longer a concern, so he naturally took them all in. However, being newcomers, their status was similar to that of the shallow followers of the ice tribe. They had to work daily to earn food, essentially becoming a group of laborers. Upon receiving food, the people were overjoyed. Food was paramount to them. They didn't complain about the hard work, but were instead filled with gratitude, feeling that the Yanhuang tribe was truly kind. In just over a month, the population of the Yanhuang tribe exceeded 4,000. Looking at the reappearing true sun, Suyun, amidst the twin suns, felt the recent warming and murmured, "It seems winter is over." After discovering that the outside temperature no longer posed a threat to the believers, he cancelled the solar corona spell. The light slowly dimmed, and the divine stone returned to its milky white color, rapidly descending from the sky towards the tribe. At the same moment he cancelled the solar conjunction spell. Everyone, including the animals, froze. They had grown accustomed to the presence of that little sun these past few days, and its sudden loss was truly disorienting. The humans were relatively calm, but the animals were thrown into chaos. Suyun arrived 100 meters above the Yanhuang tribe and descended towards the altar. Whether newcomers to the tribe or true Yanhuang members, their gazes towards the divine stone were filled with reverence and fervor. "Is this the divine stone? It's so beautiful," an outsider exclaimed. "The entrance to heaven. It's truly something to yearn for," another burly man said, his eyes brimming with anticipation. Under the increasingly skilled methods of the old priest, these newcomers, like the Ice Tribe members, underwent a period of ideological education. Now, the Ice Tribe members were almost all novice believers, and these newcomers were making promising progress. It was estimated that it wouldn't be long before they too became novice believers. The crowd looked at the sacred stone with awe, not daring to disturb it. Seeing this, the old priest quickly shouted, "Fellow tribesmen, let's thank the gods together. Thanks to the gods, we were able to get through this." He knelt down first, and the other tribesmen followed suit. "Gods, thank you for protecting us, keeping illness and disaster away from us." Winter passed, and all things began to revive. That morning, the sun shone brightly, and a group of 3 slowly approached the Yanhuang tribe. As they drew closer, a tall, handsome young man among them gazed with admiration at the surrounding environment of the Yanhuang tribe. "It's been so long, the Yanhuang tribe has developed very well." A burly young man beside him, as strong as a black bear, nodded in agreement. The middle-aged man with a broad frame and a thin build, with a dark face, reminded them, "All right, let's go, don't waste time." The other 2 nodded. As they approached, Yu asked curiously, "Uncle Hishin, when I came here, I heard some things about the God of Light. Do you think it's true?" Hishin frowned slightly, clearly thinking of something. "You mean the extra sun in the sky?" Yu nodded. "It's very likely true," Hishin pondered for a moment. "This matter has such a wide impact, and it's located here. It's very likely that the God of Light did it." Yu suddenly realized something and exclaimed in surprise, "If it's true, then the God of Light's power is too strong, isn't it?" Hishin smiled upon hearing this. "Don't think too much about it. What God can improve so quickly? Maybe the God of Light used some external force, like a divine artifact." "That's true." Yu suddenly understood and inexplicably breathed a sigh of relief. With the wonder of divine artifacts, it's quite possible that something could be done. If that's the case, then the God of Light's power shouldn't be that strong. Yu suddenly had an idea, his eyes darting around. "I'm sure I can regain my face at this exchange meeting. For this great opportunity, I specially invited some powerful friends from the tribe. They'll help me teach the Yanhuang people a lesson." He was still annoyed by the previous setback, and thinking that the Yanhuang tribe would soon lose face, he became excited. "Don't go too far," Hishin glanced at him, his eyes smiling. "I know, do I look like the kind of person who lacks restraint?" Yu retorted, somewhat unconvinced. Hishin and Hu exchanged glances, their meaning clear, making Yu purse his lips. While the group was talking, the old priest emerged with a dozen or so men. "Emissaries from the Thunder Tribe?" the old priest exclaimed in surprise. Hishin got straight to the point. "This is the first time your Yanhuang tribe has participated, so the tribe specially sent us to guide you." The old priest nodded in understanding, then led the three men into the tribe's territory. The three from Black Mountain watched the ever-changing, bustling Yanhuang tribe, and sighed inwardly. The group of nearly 20 walked along, attracting a large crowd of onlookers who stared curiously at them. HMPH, a malicious snort rang out, causing the crowd to stop and turn around in confusion. The old tortoise slowly approached from a distance, releasing a powerful pressure that pressed down directly on the three thunder messengers. Black Mountain and the others' expressions changed drastically, exclaiming, "Level 5, they were first shocked by the intensity of the pressure, then somewhat bewildered when they saw who was emanating it. The old tortoise looked at you and sneered, "Boy, do you still think I'm level 2? His strength had already recovered to its full extent in the past few days. He still remembered how these three guys had looked down on him when they first came to the tribe. Someone as vengeful as him wouldn't let it go unpunished. Yu's face flushed red, completely dumbfounded. This beast was actually level 5, and from the Yanhuang tribe. How could such a small tribe have such an existence? Even in their Thunder tribe, the highest-ranking warrior was only level 5. Black Mountain and Amber were astonished. Last time they were only half believing, but this time, feeling the overwhelming pressure, it was undeniable. "Sorry," Black Mountain recovered from his shock, his face full of apology. "I'm truly sorry for my previous offense. Please, forgive us, sir." A level 5 beast, even in their Thunder tribe, would be treated with respect. The old tortoise didn't answer, its gaze fixed on you. Yu's face flushed red from the stare, and after a long while, he gritted his teeth. "Sorry, HMPH, the old tortoise." Hearing this, walked away smugly. A gentle breeze blew by, making the atmosphere somewhat awkward. Thank you 20200306150608139 feet for the 500 Kidian coins reward. Thank you for the 588 book coins reward. Thank you for the 100 Kidian coins reward. Thank you Jenny for the 200 book coins reward. Chapter 279 Departure from Thunder Tribe. The old priest watched helplessly as the old tortoise walked away, sighing inwardly. He coughed awkwardly a few times and said, "Don't mind him, that's just how that guy is, it's alright." Black Mountain forced a smile, indicating he didn't mind. Feeling awkward, the group was led by the old priest to an open space where some knee-high stones stood upright. He sat down first. After the three of them sat down, to ease the awkwardness, the old priest smiled and said, "Our tribe has been producing a lot of snowflake salt lately, would you like some?" "Oh," Black Mountain's eyes lit up slightly, his previous displeasure instantly forgotten. "If possible, of course we'd like some. Your tribe's porcelain is also quite good," he laughed. The old priest nodded and instructed his tribesmen to fetch the porcelain and snowflake salt. When the tribesmen brought the items, Black Mountain and his companions, seeing that the quality was good, immediately transformed into wealthy patrons, ordering a large quantity, 100 pieces of porcelain and 200 small bowls of salt. That's equivalent to 3,000 level 1 faith crystals. Of course, the old priest didn't want the level 1 ones, instead, he exchanged them all for level 2 faith crystals, a full 300. Black Mountain, delighted with his good find, completely forgot what had just happened. He smiled and asked, "I wonder if your tribe still has those divine plants that your tribe showed us last time?" The old priest shook his head. "It will take a long time, the divine plants haven't matured yet." "All right then," Black Mountain sighed regretfully. "I hope we'll be luckier next time we come and be able to trade for your tribe's divine plants." Definitely, the old priest said with a beaming smile. After the transaction, Black Mountain decided to get down to business, subtly asking, "The exchange meeting isn't far off. I wonder who the Yanhuang tribe plans to send this time?" The old priest understood his implication. "Is there a minimum number of participants?" "No, not really." Black Mountain hesitated for a moment, then added, "However, Most tribes hold at least 3 competitions. Your Yanhuang tribe should bring at least 3 people. The old priest thoughtfully agreed, then waved for his men to bring the chosen participants. A moment later, 3 tall, burly men were brought over. The old priest pointed to a dark-skinned, muscular man in his 30s and said, "His name is Kwang." He then pointed to a somewhat dull-looking young man. "This is Li." Finally, he pointed to a tall, robust man with a missing left arm and a rugged appearance. "This is Mao." The 3 men from Black Mountain silently observed the 3, especially scrutinizing Mao. They were puzzled. Did the Yanhuang tribe have no one else? Why would they choose someone with a missing arm? A glint flashed in Yu's eyes, a hint of disdain creeping into his eyes. His plan to humiliate the Yanhuang tribe gained even more confidence. Mao naturally noticed their gazes but didn't care. To participate in this competition, he had trained hard every day, even defeating everyone except the chief, to earn this opportunity. He wasn't just there to make up the numbers, as the 3 men from Black Mountain suspected. "Are we only sending these 3? Black Mountain couldn't help but ask. The old priest nodded. "All right, is there anything else your tribe needs to prepare? If not, we'll set off." Hishin hesitated for a moment, then added, "However, your tribe's god of light, don't worry, my god will arrive before the exchange begins." Suddenly, a clear, pleasant voice rang out. Hishin and the other 2 were startled and instinctively turned to look in the direction of the voice. They saw a handsome young man of about 17 or 18, dressed in strange white clothes, slowly walking towards them from a distance. This person, Hishin's eyes narrowed. He hadn't sensed this person at all, as if he didn't exist. If he hadn't spoken, he wouldn't have known such a person was standing there. Who is this person? Does the Yanhuang tribe have such a powerful person? Moreover, although the style of the clothes the boy wore was a bit strange, just looking at the fineness of the material, it was even better than the best clothes in their tribe. What was this? The 3 were filled with suspicion. "Holy Son," Mao and the others called out. The Holy Son, Hishin, and the other 2 frowned. The identity of this boy made them speculate endlessly. Noticing their puzzled expressions, Su Yun said softly, "You can call me Messiah. This time, I'll be going to your Thunder tribe with the 3 of them, including Mao." He didn't offer further explanation. Heisham suppressed his doubts and smiled. "I see. In that case, let's set off." Su Yun nodded slightly. Soon, Su Yun and his 3 companions, along with Heishan and his 2 companions, set off for the Thunder tribe, seeing off the old priest and many other tribespeople. Su Yun traveled while pondering. To prevent any unforeseen circumstances, he left behind enough mana to last for over 10 days, and brought the Ark of the Covenant from the tribe. Better safe than sorry, entering the tribe with a 5th-level god. If anything unexpected happened, the Ark would give him some security. After considering his preparations, he looked at the 3 of them running beside him. About 3 months had passed. After such a long period of cultivation, and with the high energy mana he had bestowed upon them, all 3 of them had reached the peak of the 3rd level. If the 4th level weren't so difficult to break through, they might have advanced already. As long as they didn't encounter anyone of a higher level in this competition, they were capable of protecting themselves, to say the least. Thinking this, he lightly tapped his feet, as if using a martial arts technique, his figure shifting and floating like a god, easily catching up with the 3 from Black Mountain who were leading the way. Black Mountain and the other 2 caught a glimpse of the Holy Son's actions out of the corner of their eyes, secretly surprised and somewhat wary. "We've roughly assessed the strength of those 3. In a level 3 large tribe, their strength is quite good, which is truly surprising, but this Holy Son," Black Mountain frowned deeply. After traveling for so long, he hadn't seen this person out of breath, nor had he been able to ascertain the extent of this person's strength. If they hadn't seen him here with their own eyes, they would have suspected that someone else was following them. Su Yun naturally noticed their gazes, but didn't care at all. If he weren't afraid of frightening the 3, he would have already flown to the Thunder tribe. However, after walking for more than an hour, Su Yun frowned and asked, "Could I ask how far Thunder tribe is from here?" Black Mountain was taken aback and casually replied, "At our current speed, it will take us another half a day to get here." Chapter 280 Arrival at the Thunder Tribe. "This speed is quite fast," Black Mountain explained with a smile. "And this is even though we're not ordinary people. If it were an ordinary person, it would take several days to reach our tribe." "Is that so?" Su Yun's brows furrowed even more. Just thinking about walking for half a day felt like a waste of time. The three men, including Spear, exchanged glances, while seeing shame in each other's eyes. They knew the Holy Sun could definitely fly, but now, for their sake, they were obediently walking, which felt like a burden to the Holy Sun. The three men ahead, noticing the expressions on Spear and the others' faces, felt a little strange. Why were these three making such faces? After walking for a while, Su-Yun pondered for a moment and said, "Shall I lead you for a while?" "What?" Black Mountain was stunned, not understanding what the Holy Sun meant. Kwang, however, reacted and exclaimed, "Holy Sun, are you going to take us flying?" Fly. The three men, including Black Mountain, were stunned, thinking they had misheard. Was it the kind of flying they were thinking of? That was their first thought, but they immediately dismissed the answer. Impossible. Aside from some strange beasts and evil creatures, even the tribe's level 5 divine warriors had never seen anything that could fly. Just as they were thinking this, they heard the Holy Sun speak. They immediately doubted whether they were hallucinating. However, before they could express their confusion, they saw the Holy Sun wave his hand, and a dense white light enveloped the three of them. Then, an astonishing scene unfolded. The three of them, including Black Mountain, stared in disbelief as the Holy Sun slowly floated up, and then the three of them, enveloped in his white light, also floated up. He really flew, who looked utterly dumbfounded. Black Mountain and you were no better off. After Su-Yun carried the three of them into the air, he hovered 2 meters above them, looking down at them. "Want to come along?" Black Mountain nodded subconsciously, and when the white light enveloped them and they too took flight, the three of them looked at the Holy Sun with a completely different expression. This Holy Sun's strength, not only in terms of flight, but even looking at the white light surrounding him, they still couldn't discern the extent of the Holy Sun's power. There are only two possibilities. The first is that this Holy Sun's strength surpasses theirs. But Black Mountain himself is only at level 4, and even he couldn't sense it. Doesn't it mean this Holy Sun is at least level 4, or even level 5? Black Mountain's first reaction was disbelief. Judging from the power this Holy Sun used, it should come from the God of Light. If even he has level 4 or even level 5 strength, then how strong must the God of Light be? You know, the strength of believers can't surpass that of gods. Perhaps comparable to the God of Thunder. This terrifying thought unconsciously popped into his mind. Then, the next second, he shook his head and quickly banished this ridiculous idea from his mind. That's their noble and powerful God. How could a newly emerging god like the God of Light compare to him? Moreover, he had personally witnessed a number of the Yanhuan people. It couldn't possibly exceed 10,000, so it's simply impossible. Thinking of this, he ignored this illogical thought and subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. If it's not a matter of strength, then it's a divine artifact or some other treasure. This answer made him more convinced than the previous one. The more he thought about it, the more convinced he became, and he nodded firmly. Just then, a voice rang out, interrupting the three's musings. "Which way?" Su-Yun asked softly. "That way," Hu pointed blankly in a direction. As soon as he finished speaking, they instantly rose to a height of over 10 meters, then suddenly accelerated, flying rapidly forward. This scene startled the six, their faces turning slightly pale, and they glanced down fearfully. On the way, after Yu had adjusted, he couldn't help but ask, "How did you do that? I mean, this ability to fly?" Su-Yun shook his head slightly. He-Shin glanced at him, tugged at Yu, and stopped him from asking further. Yu reluctantly shut his mouth. Thus, with Su-Yun leading the group through the air, without the problems of detours and obstacles, their speed was incredibly fast. After flying for nearly an hour, they were close to their destination. This was only because Su-Yun had slowed down a bit to avoid causing a stir. Otherwise, at their true speed, they could have reached this place in about 10 minutes. Despite this, the speed still startled the three from Black Mountain, leaving them dazed and feeling somewhat unreal. Gazing at the distant Thunder tribe, they saw a very tight 2-meter-high wooden fence surrounding it, with wooden houses stretching as far as the eye could see, bustling with people. After observing this, Su-Yun landed with the 6 of them. "How about it? Isn't our tribe big?" Yu's face showed pride, his head slightly raised. As he spoke, he deliberately observed the expressions of the 3 from Spear, and sure enough, he saw surprise on their faces, which made him feel somewhat smug. "I wonder what that Holy Sun's expression is like." He excitedly turned, staring intently at the Holy Sun's face. However, when he saw Su-Yun's expression, he was taken aback. The Holy Son, although somewhat surprised, quickly returned to normal, his expression becoming indifferent. It seemed that the scene before him held no surprise, forming a stark contrast with the still amazing spear and his companions. Seeing this expression, Yu was secretly annoyed and couldn't help but ask, "Holy Son, what do you think of our Thunder tribe? Isn't it magnificent? I guarantee you've never seen such a lively scene in our tribe. You should definitely take a look around this time." As he spoke, a look of pride appeared on his face, and even Hishin and Hu smiled. Suyun glanced at them, his lips twitching slightly, and said gently, "It's alright." He couldn't very well say that. Apart from the number of people, the buildings here couldn't even compare to a modern rural area, could he? Not to mention modern buildings and the flow of people, which were miles ahead of this place. So what was so novel about it? If I were to build an ancient temple or an exaggerated and magnificent building from movies and comics in the future, they would be dumbfounded, Suyun thought to himself. Yu, standing to the side, frowned slightly. He always felt that there was something wrong with this Holy Son. He didn't seem to be amazed by the grandeur of their tribe. He opened his mouth, about to say something. Seeing this, Hishin interrupted. "Let's go in," he led the way. Seeing this, Yu had no choice but to shut his mouth in reluctance. Just as the group approached the cleared entrance, a cacophony of hawkers' cries immediately reached their ears. Thanks to hacker code B137 for the 100 Kidian coins donation. Chapter 281. The vendors selling goods. 1 crimson blood fruit, 3 level 1 faith crystals for exchange. Come and take a look if you want one. Eat the bright eyes fruit, which can enhance your eyesight. 10 level 1 faith crystals, healing fruit, can heal injuries. Just, a cacophony of hawking cries filled Suyun's ears, giving him a sense of novelty. However, before they could even enter, they were stopped by 2 burly guards. Just as they instinctively stopped them, the guards recognized the 3 men from Black Mountain and exclaimed, "Lord Black Mountain." They quickly lowered their hands and retreated to the doorway. The 3 men from Black Mountain nodded to the 2 guards and then led Suyun and his companions through the door. After they left, the 2 guards chatted. "Who are the people behind Lord Black Mountain? Are they from another major tribe?" "Probably. Given Lord Black Mountain's status, he would personally invite people from a major tribe. We just don't know where their deity is." They hadn't seen any deity from that tribe earlier. After Suyun and the others went inside, the scene corresponding to the hawking cries appeared before their eyes. Men and women dressed in animal skins or hemp clothing were squatting on the ground, each with a large animal skin mat in front of them, displaying all sorts of strange and unusual items. Looking up, the roadside stretched as far as the eye could see, lined with people selling their wares. Seeing his curiosity, Hishin smiled and explained, "This exchange meeting is a rare opportunity. Most of these vendors, besides some from our tribe, are outsiders, just trying to earn some faith crystals. If you see anything you want, you can buy it later, but be careful. Some people inside specialize in bringing strange items and then charging exorbitant prices to scam people." The 3 men looked enlightened. Suyun thanked him for his kind reminder and followed behind Hishin, observing the various items on the animal skins. Just as Suyun approached a stall, a burly middle-aged man dressed in animal hides, his body filthy, asked with gleaming eyes, "Need anything?" "It's very cheap." Suyun, who was about to leave, glanced at the stall. On the black animal hides were some fruits of various colors, shimmering slightly, and some coarse, yellowish salt. He even noticed a folded hemp garment. This garment successfully drew his curious gaze to the burly man, who glanced at the animal hide clothing. The burly man noticed his gaze and became somewhat embarrassed. "Want some hemp clothing?" "This is my best," he trailed off, because he saw the clothes on the man in front of him. They were snow-white and smooth, like clouds in the sky, seemingly without any of the roughness that hemp clothing usually has. He was certain that this stuff would feel incredibly comfortable to the touch. Thinking this, he cast an admiring glance at Suyun. What is this young man's identity? And what are these clothes made of? Just as he was wondering, the 3 men from nearby, seeing him stop, hurriedly came over. Mao assumed he wanted something and respectfully inquired, "Holy Son, is there anything you want? I can buy it for you." "No need." Suyun shook his head and turned to leave. Mao and the other 2 were stunned and quickly followed, leaving the stall owner bewildered. Seeing them approach, Hishin smiled and said, "Aren't you going to buy anything?" Suyun casually replied, "I don't have anything I want." He had tried to observe the items on the stall for a while, but hadn't found anything interesting. Finding a bargain was almost impossible. There weren't that many things to miss, and these stall owners weren't stupid. But even as he thought this, he casually cast a blessing spell, enhanced luck on himself as he walked away. He didn't have the eyesight, so he'd better lie down obediently, be a good boy, and leave everything to the world. A dazzling light enveloped his body, startling Hishin and the people around him. Holy Sun, what is this? Hishin asked in confusion. It's nothing, Su-Yun said with a smile. Let's go. Okay, Hishin nodded. He didn't think too much about it and turned to continue leading the way. Since you Holy Sons don't want to trade anything, I'll take you to the place where the exchange meeting is being held first. Because it was crowded, they couldn't speed up and could only walk at a leisurely pace towards their destination. Along the way, the bustling crowds and noise made it quite lively. After walking for about 10 minutes, Kwang couldn't help but say, "Aren't we there yet?" Hishin said, "Almost there, we've already covered almost half the distance." However, just as they were hurrying along, they heard a noisy sound ahead, as if people were cursing at each other. Everyone was startled, their curiosity immediately rising, and they quickened their pace. When they arrived, they saw a burly, dark-skinned man, like a gorilla, pointing at a stall and cursing loudly. The stall owner was an old man who looked cunning and was thin. "What's wrong?" Hishin asked the people around him. The woman being questioned paused, then laughed and explained, "This big guy wanted to buy something, and we agreed on a price beforehand, but that old man changed his mind halfway through and didn't want to sell any more." She pointed in a direction. "Look, that's it." Black Mountain and the others chuckled at the explanation, then looked over curiously. In the stall owner's withered fingers was a bead about the size of a fingernail, but transparent. Su-Yun subconsciously glanced at it, even sensing its aura. "No aura at all," he said, somewhat surprised. It looked like an ordinary bead. The other warriors in the crowd also clearly didn't sense any special aura and looked at the burly man with strange expressions. At this moment, the burly man angrily shouted, "You old bastard, you agreed to sell it to me, and now you're not? What do you mean?" The stall owner, unfazed by the insult, smiled faintly. "I regret it. I still think this is a treasure. Besides, this is my stuff. I can sell it however I want." He glared at the burly man, his meaning clear. "Not selling? Get out." The burly man was furious. "You old bastard," being stared at strangely by so many people, and then mocked by this old man. A surge of anger rushed to his head. "I'll fight you to the death." With a roar, he suddenly pounced like a bear. The previously composed old man panicked. "What do you want to do?" Before he could finish speaking, the two started fighting. "Ouch!" The old man groaned in pain. The two fought like shrewish women, and soon both were on the ground. Thanks to Jenny for the 200 reading points. Thanks to hacker code B137 for the 400 Kidian coins. Cap 3 Cap. Chapter 282. A treasure falls from the sky. In the midst of this struggle, the bead in the old man's hand accidentally slipped and rolled under the feet of the crowd. Its transparent nature, and strangely enough, it landed without making a sound. The old man noticed this and screamed in surprise, causing the crowd to scatter in disarray. Su-Yun, who was watching the farce, felt a slight touch at his feet after the crowd dispersed. He looked down and froze. A white, transparent bead had rolled to his feet and remained there quietly. Su-Yun, the old man, relieved that the bead had stopped, was then struck by a punch that made his head ring and nearly knocked him unconscious. The onlookers belatedly gasped in surprise. "Stop!" After a while, a guard from the Thunder tribe separated the two. "Old man," the burly man glared at him with disgust. "You shit-eating idiot," the old man retorted, not to be outdone. "You," seeing the two about to start arguing again, the Thunder tribe member shouted, "If you fight again, we'll kick you out of the tribe." Hearing this, the two trembled and dared not continue. After calming down, they finally had time to check on the bead. It was now in the hands of a young man dressed in white, whose demeanor and appearance were quite pleasing. The burly man, seeing the bead hadn't disappeared, breathed a slight sigh of relief and turned to the old man, angrily threatening, "Old man, if you don't give me the thing today, don't think I'll let this go." The old man touched his bruised and swollen face, hissing softly, growing angrier with each passing moment. Hearing his words now, he was almost driven mad with anger, laughing furiously. "What, you think you can threaten me? It's my thing, I decide what I want. Even if I give it away, I'll never sell it to you." The burly man scoffed as if he'd heard a joke. Then give it away? He simply didn't believe the old man would just give away that seemingly special bead. However, No sooner had he finished speaking than the old man, already furious, became even more impulsive. Without thinking, he pointed at the kind-looking boy and shouted, "I gave it to him. Don't even think about it, get lost, Suyun." The burly man's sneer froze, and even the onlookers gaped in astonishment. "You're serious?" The burly man looked utterly bewildered, as if he'd heard something unbelievable. The old man had regretted his words the moment they left his mouth. He didn't know what had gotten into him. He'd blurted it out in a moment of anger, and now, with so many people around, he couldn't back out. But hearing the fool's surprised words and expression, much of his anger dissipated. The old man looked up, suppressing his heartache, and arrogantly declared, "I didn't say anything wrong. I gave it away, but I will never sell it to you, HMPH, he sneered. The burly man was indeed enraged, glaring at him angrily. He never expected that this old guy would actually do it for real. Suyun was also somewhat taken aback by their conversation. To get a beat for nothing while just watching the fun was like a windfall. He immediately guessed that the blessing spell must have worked, otherwise, how could such a coincidence happen? Since it was obtained under the amplified luck state, this bead must be something special. Touching the bead, which felt warm and smooth like jade, Suyun couldn't help but recall how it had fallen to the ground without making a sound, which seemed very strange. Just as he was pondering this, Hishin and the others approached. "Kid, give the thing to." The burly man saw that the boy was young and was about to say something when he saw Hishin and the others, so he stopped. "Holy son, I didn't expect you to be so lucky," Hishin congratulated him with a smile. "Such a strange thing, it's probably not anything good." You glanced at the bead with apparent disdain, but inwardly felt a pang of jealousy. Just standing there doing nothing, he received something for free. Why hadn't he encountered such good fortune? Lord Black Mountain, the 4 guards who had stopped the commotion immediately lit up upon seeing Black Mountain and respectfully stepped forward to greet him. The crowd watching was startled, their astonished gazes sweeping over the middle-aged, dark-faced man. This man was actually addressed as Lord. In the Thunder Tribe, to be addressed as Lord meant at least a level 4 strength, or even higher. This was a very important figure in the Thunder Tribe, and yet this man was addressed as Lord. In an instant, the gazes of the surrounding crowd towards Black Mountain changed, filled with awe and admiration. The strong man pondered how to establish a relationship with this Lord and gain a better status. The beautiful woman secretly wondered if, with her assets, she could climb into this Lord's bed. Just then, as they were pondering how to curry favor with Lord Black Mountain, the lucky boy who had been greeted by him spoke to Black Mountain, saying, "This thing is quite beautiful, you're certainly lucky." Hearing the boy's words, the onlookers were stunned. This boy was actually echoing Lord Black Mountain's words, saying he was indeed lucky. Shouldn't he have been more modest? And a seemingly equal tone. Just when they thought this boy would incur Lord Black Mountain's displeasure and anger, Lord Black Mountain first paused, then carefully examined the transparent bead, praising, "This thing is very beautiful, holy son, your taste is truly excellent." Lord Black Mountain showed no displeasure, even offering a smiling compliment. Was they mishearing or seeing things, acting as if in an equal exchange? What was going on? What is the identity of this boy called the Holy Son? Why is Lord Black Mountain treating him like this? For a moment, the crowd's gaze towards the boy was filled with astonishment and uncertainty. Suyun nodded to Black Mountain, then looked at the stunned old man. He smiled gently. "Are you sure you want to give this to me?" The gazes of Black Mountain and the others also turned to the old man. The old man, feeling the weight of so many eyes, especially that of Lord Black Mountain, trembled. He dared not say anything, hastily waving his hands. Yes, it's for you." Suyun gave him a strange look, pondering for a moment. Taking something for free didn't fit the image of a holy son, and this bead seemed rather mysterious. It must be some kind of treasure. At this moment, to ease his tension, the old man quickly brought out the burly, dark-skinned man. By the way, what did this man seem to want to say just now? The old man looked at the burly, dark-skinned man, his eyes full of schadenfreude. A new chapter will be released at noon, scheduled. Chapter 283. What is the boy's true identity? As soon as the words were spoken, everyone's gaze turned to the burly, dark-skinned man. Some with better memories easily recalled that this man had indeed wanted to say something, and it seemed to be something unpleasant. After saying that sentence, the burly man, seeing Lord Black Mountain interacting with the young man, immediately knew that the young man's identity was definitely not simple, and he immediately regretted it. He tried his best to be ignored, but now the old man's words had ruined his composure, and he couldn't help but curse the old man inwardly. Damn old man, Black Mountain's sharp gaze fell on him. The burly man panicked, frantically shaking his head. No, I didn't mean to say anything. He was sweating profusely from the look in his eyes. Fortunately, he hadn't finished speaking, otherwise he would have offended not only the mysterious young man, but also Lord Black Mountain, and then he shuddered, secretly regretting his actions. The onlookers gave him a mocking look. Suyun glanced at the burly man and shook his head slightly. Then, he turned his gaze to the old man and said gently, I won't take advantage of you, I'll buy them from you using faith crystals. The old man was startled and waved his hands repeatedly. No need. Suyun didn't say anything more. Under the curious gazes of the others, he reached into his pocket, and when he pulled it out, 5 milky white faith crystals, each the size of a goose egg, appeared in his palm. Everyone's eyes turned to the 5 faith crystals, where wisps of relatively dense faith power flowed and lingered. Compared to level 1 faith crystals, these 5 were clearly extraordinary just by their appearance. Soon, someone in the crowd recognized their level and exclaimed in surprise. Level 3 faith crystals. The exclamation startled those who were still frowning in thought, and they stared at the 5 faith crystals in astonishment. They're level 3, and there are 5 of them. Their faces were full of undisguised surprise. One level 3 faith crystal could be exchanged for 100 level 1 faith crystals. Normally, they mostly use level 1 faith crystals, and perhaps level 2 for some precious items. But level 3 was a huge fortune for them. And here were 5 of them, equivalent to 500 level 1 faith crystals. How could they not be astonished? Suyun was unaware of their thoughts. Level 3 faith crystals were barely usable for him. Taking out 5 at once wouldn't cause him the slightest heartache. The others, including Hishan, were only slightly surprised before quickly calming down. Seeing the old man's wide-eyed, silent expression, Suyun smiled and asked, not enough. He reached into his pocket again, and then, to everyone's astonishment, pulled out a crystal containing extremely rich faith power. Level 4, someone secretly swallowed, their eyes glued to the crystal, unwilling to look away. Not only him, but the others were no better, their eyes wide. They easily compared the concentration of faith power. A single level 4 faith crystal is equivalent to 1,000 level 1 faith crystals. They'd never even seen one before, let alone traded it. It was something only heard of. Black Mountain and the others were just as surprised as the others. For the Holy Sun to produce a level 4 faith crystal was incredibly rare even for them. Suyun, holding the level 4 faith crystal, looked at the old man. The old man was trembling and swaying, looking as if he might collapse at any moment. The level 4 faith crystal made him dizzy, and his heart pounded. He had never seen a faith crystal of this level before. The old man's appearance surprised Suyun. He seemed to have misunderstood. However, the old man's precarious state made him want to tease him. Would he really collapse? Suyun feigned doubt and said, isn't that enough? I have a level 5. As he spoke, everyone's eyelids twitched, watching him reach into his pocket, seemingly about to pull out a level 5 faith crystal. This action caused the eyes of the crowded people to bulge out, almost popping out of their sockets. Level 5. Level 5, that's equivalent to 10,000 level 1 faith crystals. They'd never even heard of such a quantity, let alone seen it. They figured it could pile up into a small mountain. My God, even gods might not possess faith crystals of this level, let alone them. The burly man broke out in a cold sweat, secretly relieved he hadn't offended the young man, otherwise. A series of gulping sounds echoed from the crowd. Looking at the impending level 5 faith crystal, the old man's eyes reddened, he gasped for breath, his heart pounding. He staggered and collapsed to the ground. At this moment, he felt no joy, only horror. Seeing the old man actually fall, Suyun, satisfied with his wicked pleasure, hesitated, his hand still holding the level 5 faith crystal, before reaching out of his pocket. He didn't reveal it. He feared that if he really exposed himself, the old man might immediately faint and then try to scam him. However, just as his hand stopped, Black Mountain beside him shouted in shock, wait, don't take it. He reached out his rough hand towards the Holy Sun, stopping him. He was afraid that if he really took it out, some of the onlookers might faint. Suyun hesitated for a moment, then casually put the faith crystal into his pocket. The fleeting crystalline light and the rich, powerful aura made those with extraordinary powers tremble and their bodies go weak. Black Mountain subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. He withdrew his hand, glanced at the old man, and thought for a moment before saying, I think those 5 level 3 faith crystals from the beginning are enough. With this number of faith crystals, the one that doesn't seem to have any effect is more than enough. Hearing Black Mountain's words, the old man immediately recovered from his fear and hurriedly shouted, That's right, that's right. He really didn't dare to say anything more, fearing that this mysterious young man would really give him a level 5 faith crystal. He feared that if things came to that, he'd be torn apart by others before even leaving the Thunder Tribe. While 5 level 3 crystals were a considerable number, he was confident he could protect them. Suyun nodded and handed the 5 level 3 faith crystals to the old man. Let's go, Black Mountain suggested, glancing at the still dazed crowd. Suyun nodded. Then, Black Mountain quickly led him away, leaving behind a group of people who were still in shock. After an unknown amount of time, the crowd finally calmed down. A deafening roar erupted, followed by a series of exclamations as people discussed the identity of the young man they had just encountered. Chapter 284 The Power of the Beads. Hiss, he can even produce a level 5 faith crystal. Who exactly is that boy? Even ordinary gods might not possess a faith crystal of this level, right? The crowd buzzed with discussion, all speculating about the boy's identity. Not only could that boy produce such a valuable faith crystal, but even Lord Black Mountain treated him with unusual respect. It was all incredibly suspicious. Various guesses about the boy's identity surfaced. I guess you might be an important figure from another tribe comparable to the Thunder Tribe. This was a plausible guess, but there were also some wildly imaginative and jaw-dropping speculations. For example, a burly man casually guessed that the boy might be the Thunder God's child born outside the tribe. The scene fell silent. Everyone looked at the burly man with admiration. Sure enough, not long after, this man was dragged away by the patrolling guards. The guards' words drifted on the wind. Could what this guy is saying be true? Suyun was unaware of the discussion that had taken place after he left. He was currently walking, studying the transparent bead in his hand. The Black Mountain group ahead were also secretly glancing at the bead out of the corner of their eyes, curious about what it was. Yu muttered to himself, wasted 5 level 3 faith crystals on this piece of junk. He should regret it now, right? Seeing the Holy Sun studying it, he chuckled inwardly. Suyun pondered the bead's characteristics. Not only did it lack any aura, but it also seemed to make no sound no matter how it was bumped. Besides these, even using his spiritual power, he couldn't discern anything special about it. Subconsciously, Suyun tried channeling divine power into it. A white light emanated from his hand. As soon as the divine power was transmitted, the bead trembled slightly, showing resistance. However, under the powerful divine power, that resistance was negligible and was easily defeated. As divine power filled the entire bead, he immediately perceived its abilities. So simple, Suyun was stunned. Just a simple input of divine power, and this thing was usable? Why hadn't the old man noticed his rapidly processing thoughts? Judging from the bead's abilities he had just learned, it wasn't a divine artifact, but it must be related to the gods, otherwise it wouldn't be usable just by inputting divine power. That old man lacked divine power, perhaps that was why the bead ignored him. Somewhat similar to the golden bead obtained from the sea god's ruins, not a divine artifact but possessing some of its effects, Suyun mused to himself. As for its abilities, he understood them as divine power filled the bead. It possessed the ability to conceal the sound and aura of things, even shielding anomalies, making it impossible for others to detect anything else. Like Suyun before, no matter how much he investigated, he couldn't see anything unusual about it. It was well disguised, just like an ordinary object. Moreover, the bead's effects lasted a long time, almost like an enchantment. Just then, a surprised voice came from ahead. Hishin and the others, seeing Suyun transferring power to the bead, had thought nothing would happen, but this was unexpected. This thing is truly a treasure, Hishin exclaimed in surprise. Yu muttered sourly, what kind of eye does that old man have? He missed this, just lucky, Suyun said modestly. What effect does it have? You couldn't help but ask. But a dry cough came from the side. Cough cough cough, Hishin interrupted him, giving him a stern look. Asking about secrets like this was sure to annoy people. Suyun smiled slightly, unconcerned about revealing a secret, and casually explained, this bead can make other things look very ordinary, just like itself. Hishin looked at him with surprise, secretly admiring this holy son's good temper. Not only was he gentle, but he was also so broad-minded, not caring at all about revealing a secret, which made him somewhat impressed. After thinking it over, he glanced thoughtfully at the bead. So that's how it is. No wonder the bead is in this state. You, standing beside him, unconsciously breathed a sigh of relief after understanding the bead's abilities. Looks like your luck isn't so good either. This thing's ability seems pretty average, he chuckled, earning another glare from Black Mountain. However, Black Mountain had to admit that the bead's ability was indeed somewhat ordinary. Suyun smiled non-committally. In fact, the bead was quite ordinary, but it depended on its application. In just a moment, he had thought of several ways to use the bead. One particular thought, in particular, made his expression somewhat strange. Seeing the Thunder Tribe's architecture, he had the idea of building something similar for his own tribe. At that time, he had several references in mind, one of which was ancient Greek style, similar to the zodiac constellations floating in the sky in a certain anime. And thinking of the zodiac constellations, Suyun suddenly thought of those golden saintcloths, and for some reason, a strange thought popped into his head. If I could create my own holy sons, make a set effect, then disassemble them and stuff them into special jars, Suyun thought. Then I could enchant the jars with a bead so no one could tell what was inside, and then pile up a bunch of junk jars to fool everyone. He could then wear a jar head and wave to passers-by, shouting, "Warrior, wanna get one?" Suyun shuddered, feeling truly wicked. Psychologically speaking, this satisfies people's collecting desires and the thrill of opening blind boxes, just like the most popular items in games are various boxes and chests. Because no one knows what they'll get next, everyone thinks they're lucky. In reality, the opposite is true. They're not only not lucky, they're unlucky, and by the time they realize it, it's too late, all their money is gone. Suyun's lips curled slightly, thinking of using some jars containing treasures and most of the junk jars to sell to others, thus obtaining a massive amount of faith crystals. I believe that by then, these primitive people will definitely feel the pain of modern people, and what it means to be unable to resist. As for why they wear jars on their heads, that's obviously to prevent others from recognizing the person selling the jars, lest they be confronted and beaten to death. After thinking about this, Suyun shook his head when he saw Yu, who seemed unconcerned and regretful for him. I hope that after the jars are made, this guy next to me will still be able to smile, maybe he'll even fall in love with opening jars. Suyun smiled gently. Yu, walking ahead, looked at the smile on the Holy Son's face. It seemed normal, but for some reason, he felt a chill run down his spine. Just as he was about to say something, Uncle Black Mountain's voice rang out from ahead, interrupting him. Black Mountain pointed ahead and said with a smile, "We're here." Suyun looked up carefully. "Thank you Maya for the 200 book coins reward. Thank you hacker code B137 for the 100 Kidian coins reward. Thanks for the tip. Also, could you please give me some recommendation votes and monthly tickets?" Cap 3 Cap. Chapter 285 High Platform. Ahead lay a large open space, upon which stood a tall platform with 3 tiers of seats arranged from highest to lowest. Below the seats was a small area, presumably for the battles of the divine warriors, also serving as a viewing platform for the gods seated above. It resembled the Roman Colosseum, but only half the size. Seeing the Holy Son examining the seats, Yu explained, "Those seats are reserved for the gods. We, in our status, cannot sit there, we can only watch from below. The minimum requirement to sit there is to be a god of a major tribe." He pointed to the tiered seating arrangement. "See those 3 tiers, the 3rd tier at the bottom is for gods of 3rd level major tribes, the 2nd tier for gods of 4th level major tribes, and as for the 1st tier, while the other tiers had several seats, the 1st tier had only one." You pointed to the high seat and proudly proclaimed, "That's the throne of our tribe's thunder god. No other god is qualified to sit there." He glanced at Suyun, his eyes brimming with superiority, as if to say, "Our thunder god is the strongest, your tribe's gods are no match for him." Mao and the other 2 frowned, glancing at him with barely concealed annoyance. You, oblivious to their expressions, continued, "Your Yanhoang tribe is among the lowest ranking 3rd tier tribes, so you can only sit at the very bottom. Sorry, it's the rule. Even we can't arbitrarily change your seats." He seemed somewhat regretful, as if kindly considering their needs. But beneath the guise of regret, his eyes were filled with superiority. Even though those were the words, after saying them, Mao and the other 2 felt an urge to punch you. Is this some kind of sarcastic remark? So what if they were a level 5 tribe? One day, under the guidance of their god, they'll be a level 5 tribe too. And even if they might not be as powerful as the Thunder tribe now, the things their god has done recently have filled them with confidence, making them feel that their god might not be inferior to the Thunder god. So, they glared at you with a mixture of anger and resentment. You, instead of feeling uneasy under this gaze, strangely felt a secret pleasure. He subconsciously looked at the Holy Sun, anticipating his expression. However, he was disappointed once again. The Holy Sun didn't show the anger he expected. Instead, a faint, enigmatic smile appeared on his face, as if he didn't care about his words at all. How can this be? He couldn't believe that such a good-tempered person existed in the world. A sense of defeat welled up within him. Suyun wasn't as good-tempered as he thought, it was just that the confidence brought by his strength made him ignore Yu's words, even finding the other person childish and laughable. And it wouldn't be long before this person overturned his own beliefs. Yu opened his mouth, about to say something. Before he could speak, Hishin stretched out his right hand to stop him. What else do you want to say? He reprimanded sternly. At first, he was proud of what Yu had said, but the more he listened, the more uneasy he felt. He quickly interrupted him, afraid that if you continued, he would offend the Yanhuang tribe to the death. He was willing to let you find powerful divine warriors and defeat the Yanhuang tribe in the competition, but that didn't mean he would let you directly offend the Yanhuang tribe. Yu shut his mouth in disappointment. Seeing that he had shut up, Hishin turned to Suyun and the other three and apologized awkwardly. I'm sorry, I hope you don't mind. To change the subject, he quickly smiled and said, thanks to the Holy Sun, our journey has been much faster. However, there are still 2 days until the exchange meeting, and not all the other gods have arrived, so our tribe has prepared accommodations. Everyone, follow me. He smiled and led the way. Seeing the Holy Sun follow, Mao and the other two had no choice but to suppress their anger and follow as well. After walking for a few minutes, Hishin led the four to a place with many wooden houses. He pointed to 4 closely spaced wooden houses and smiled. These houses are all clean. You'll have to make do with these until the exchange ends. It's alright. Suyu nodded. The 3 men beside him looked at the wooden house, and after a while, smiles appeared on their faces. Although it was also a wooden house, it was very messy and crooked, not as nice and orderly as the wooden houses in their tribe. Moreover, they knew that this wasn't the only tribe with better houses. They had seen these all along the way, so. Thinking of this, Kwong, one of the 3, couldn't help but say, your tribe's wooden houses aren't as nice as our Yanhuang tribes? As he spoke, he looked at Yu, his meaning clear. Yu was stunned, then choked, feeling like he'd been countered. He subconsciously looked at his own house, then recalled the wooden houses of the Yanhuang tribe. Even if he wanted to beautify them, he had to admit that the Yanhuang tribe's wooden houses seemed better. He gritted his teeth and glared at Kwong, who glared back, not backing down at all. Yu became increasingly indignant and snorted coldly, arguing, so what? The strength of our gods represents everything, something a small house can't compensate for. Alright. Seeing the tense atmosphere, Hishin sternly stopped Yu from continuing. He then turned to the Holy Sun and smiled, if you need anything these days, you can tell our people, and we'll usually meet your needs. We'll even provide food. As he spoke, he seemed to remember something and suggested, the wait has been a bit long. If you're bored, you can go back to where you were before and sell some items. Suyu nodded. The next second, Hishin grabbed Yu's shoulder and left with Hu. Seeing them gone, Suyun said to Mao and the other 2, choose a room each. Time passed quickly, and soon the next morning arrived. The morning sun shone down, dew clung to the houses and plants, and the air carried a faint, damp scent. Mao and the other 2 left their rooms early, and, not wanting to disturb the Holy Sun's rest, they huddled together. Mao said, during the previous preparations, the priest accepted the Holy Sun's suggestion and gave me the storage bag, which contains some faith crystals and our tribe's specialties. As the Holy Sun said back then, we should try our best to promote things like the snowflake salt, so that more tribes can experience their benefits, and then they will come to our tribe to trade. Kwong and Li nodded. Kwong laughed, then what are we waiting for? Let's go. I can't wait any longer. Selling things, he was inexplicably excited. The 3 discussed it briefly before heading towards the stall area. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. we warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 286, Setting Up a Stall to Sell Things. Early in the morning, not only were they diligent risers, but others had gotten up even earlier than the three of them. Looking towards the road, they saw various colored furs laid out on the ground, covered with many strange and unusual items. Startled, they quickly ran over while there were still some empty spaces and hurriedly began setting up their stall. Since they hadn't brought any animal hides, they used a fur coat as a mat, then took out the items from their storage bags one by one: snow salt, various kinds of snow-white porcelain, some chili peppers, and ginger. After arranging everything on the furs, it wasn't long before people gathered around. A middle-aged man, dressed in a thick, somewhat dirty fur, approached with a female tribeswoman. The man curiously pointed to the salt on the furs, saying, "What's this? It looks quite pretty," he explained. "This is a specialty of our tribe, snow salt." As he introduced each item, the man and woman looked at him with astonishment, as did everyone else around them. "Is this true?" the woman asked in surprise. She couldn't believe it. The white stuff on the animal hide was actually salt. Compared to the blackish yellow salt, this snow white was like an anomaly, not only looking incredibly clean but also exceptionally refined. Next to the three men's stall, at another stall, a round-faced, ordinary-looking young man scoffed. "I don't believe it, look at mine. That doesn't look like salt at all," he said, proudly pointing to a jar of somewhat coarse, yellowish salt on his stall. "This is produced by our rock tribe. Not only is the bitterness very mild, but the color is also beautiful. Even the Thunder tribe uses our salt. 5 level 1 faith crystals are enough to get a jar like this." Everyone was stunned. A tall, burly man exclaimed in surprise, "It's from the rock tribe?" Someone nearby asked in confusion, and the tall, burly man looked around and explained, "Most of the salt we eat comes from the Anda tribe. Their salt varies in quality, but this jar probably contains the best salt from the Yam tribe." "I see." The crowd suddenly understood, their gazes towards the round-faced youth filled with awe, while their eyes gleamed with longing as they looked at the yellow salt. "The Yam tribe produces the best quality salt, it must be excellent." The round-faced youth, Baishi, beamed, feeling somewhat smug under the gazes. He turned triumphantly to the three men. "Your salt looks even better and finer than ours. I don't believe there's anything better. Even if yours looks better, it certainly won't taste as good as ours." He was naturally going all out to promote his own salt. His tribe had eliminated countless competing tribes like theirs. Besides the fact that their salt was indeed better, the other factor was the strength of their tribe. He sneered inwardly. "You can try it," Lee said expressionlessly, glancing at him. "All right, I'll give it a try." With a disdainful attitude, Baishi pinched some snowflake salt with his fingers and put it in his mouth to savor it. "This is..." His eyes widened as soon as it entered his mouth. "What's wrong?" The people around him stared intently at him, and seeing his reaction, they were all puzzled, thinking there was something wrong with the snowflake salt. Thinking about it, it made sense. How could salt be so white? It looked very strange. However, before he could speak, Baishi murmured in astonishment, "It really is salt." The onlookers were stunned, examining the snow-white salt with surprise. There really was such a color of salt. Before they could ask, Baishi, his face full of disbelief, exclaimed, "This salt doesn't taste bitter." His voice was soft, but everyone around him heard him clearly. "What? No bitterness?" Incredulous gazes stared intently at the snowflake salt. Compared to its color, the lack of bitterness surprised them even more. They knew that even the salt from the rock tribe had a bitter taste, but this snow-white salt didn't. What did that mean? "This is absolutely the best salt ever found in the rock tribe." Even the rock tribe members were astonished after tasting it, which shows just how good it is. "This salt must be very expensive, right?" Someone's eyes gleamed with longing, yet hesitated due to the potential high price. Salt is inherently a precious commodity. Even in the Thunder tribe, not everyone can use it recklessly. On the contrary, they are quite frugal. If the Thunder tribe is like this, then smaller tribes like theirs are even more so. The value of salt is almost comparable to divinely bestowed fruits. Qua grinned. "Not expensive, 10 faith crystals for a small bowl." He pointed to a small white porcelain bowl, gesturing to the people who were gradually gathering around. Everyone glanced at the bowl instinctively, then froze. The bowl itself was nothing special, they had all seen it before. But this one was different. Not only was it as white as salt, but it was also incredibly smooth and delicate. In surprise, a man squatted down and touched the small bowl. "Very smooth," he exclaimed in astonishment. "Let me touch it." Soon, the crowd eagerly touched the bowl, their faces filled with surprise. Another rare and precious item they'd never seen before. They couldn't help but wonder what kind of tribe produced these two things. "How many crystals does this bowl need?" someone couldn't help but ask. "The same amount as salt," Mao said. After a moment's thought, everyone felt it was very cheap. Although much more expensive than ordinary salt and bowls, it was worth the price, and no one thought it was unreasonable. "Give me a bowl of salt," someone gritted their teeth and decided. "Okay." The three men exchanged glances and smiled. Soon, the people around couldn't wait to grab some, afraid that if they were too slow, it would be gone. Bai Shi watched with a face full of anger. Even though his family's salt was cheaper, all eyes were now on the salt of the three people next to him, and he was being ignored. This situation made his face turn pale. Unfortunately, the crowd didn't stop because of his anger. Instead, they fought even more fiercely. In the blink of an eye, the salt and bowls he carried were sold out, netting him 320 level 1 faith crystals. "That's it? Why didn't you bring more?" "Yeah, right." Those who didn't get any complained. Kwang said apologetically, "We only brought this much. If you want to trade in bulk, you can go to our Yanhuang tribe." Yanhuang tribe? Everyone's eyes lit up, and they secretly memorized the tribe's name, planning to ask the Thunder tribe for its location later. Then they could go back and discuss it with the priest or chief, and then they could trade salt and these bowls in bulk. Of course, besides those who wanted to trade normally, there were also those in the crowd whose eyes gleamed with greed, wanting to do something dishonest. Chapter 287 Greedy People. These people thought that since these two things were so good, if they could occupy the Yanhuang tribe, wouldn't they all be theirs? Thinking of this, they became secretly excited. Especially Bai Shi from the stall next to them, who memorized the name of the tribe, planning to report it to the chief as soon as he got back. He smiled coldly. "So what if it's better than our tribe's salt? Sooner or later, this white salt and that bowl will also be the specialty of our Yan tribe. Any tribe that produces salt is an enemy of our Yan tribe." He was already planning to report this to the chief and the god when he got back, as long as he could get the Yanhuang tribe's location. This tribe called Yanhuang shouldn't exist for long. Everyone was thinking about all sorts of things. After thinking it over, someone came back to his senses and saw two kinds of plants on the animal skin, so he asked, "What are these?" Everyone's eyes followed, and having learned from the previous experience, they were all full of anticipation and curiosity. "Wait." The three men didn't say much, but took out some wood, and then took out some fresh meat from a wrapped animal skin. These were the supplies provided by the Thunder tribe that morning. Soon, under the curious gazes of the crowd, they lit the wood and then skewered the meat on it to roast. Roasting meat, the others looked confused, not understanding what they were doing. The three men, including Mao, continued roasting the meat. Once the blood-red chunks of meat began to change color from the fire, they took out the prepared chili powder and sprinkled it on the meat, turning it occasionally. A rich, spicy aroma began to waft through the air, attracting people from the surrounding area and beyond. The already somewhat crowded crowd became even more packed, almost impassable. Everyone stared at the spicy roasting meat, their mouths watering. "It smells so good." "What's that? How can it smell so good?" someone said, swallowing hard. As the meat sizzled and released its oil, it changed from blood red to pale yellow, emitting an enticing aroma. Mao took out a bone knife he had seized from the ice tribe from his waist and gently cut a small piece of meat. "Who wants to try some?" He looked around. Me, give it to me," the crowd responded eagerly. Finally, the grilled meat ended up in the hands of a very strong man who pushed his way through the crowd. He took the piece of meat sprinkled with chili powder and stuffed it into his mouth in one bite. The meat was tender and juicy, and the spicy flavor stimulated his taste buds, causing him to salivate profusely. Chewing, he couldn't help but shout, "Delicious!" His eyes were then fixed on the remaining grilled meat, and he said in a rough voice, "Give me some more." Mao gave him some more. "Me too." The others couldn't resist any longer. Mao and his two companions distributed the meat, and after some of the people had tasted it, they were all surprised. This grilled meat was much better than what they had grilled before. Could it be that something was wrong? Mao and his companions ignored their surprise and continued grilling meat. Soon, most of the people had a taste. A burly man pointed excitedly at the red chili powder. "Is it this stuff that makes the barbecue taste so good?" The three of them always added this to their barbecue. Even a fool could see what made it so delicious. The three nodded. A commotion erupted. Everyone's eyes burning with fervor. Compared to salt, chili peppers, a flavor enhancer, were far more precious to them. Salt was relatively easy to obtain or had substitutes, but this red stuff was different. "How many faith crystals does this cost?" a member of a large tribe asked excitedly. The man replied apologetically, "This is a divinely bestowed plant. Our tribe just planted it. What you're eating now are just the seeds, so it's not for sale yet." The crowd listened blankly to his words. This stuff is actually a divinely bestowed plant. That makes sense. Since it's edible, it must become a divinely bestowed plant. That means, they gasped. This stuff not only tasted good, but it would also have special effects later. In an instant, the value of these items increased dramatically. Mao added, "If our Yanhuang tribe grows larger in the future, we will choose to trade." This rekindled the fervor in the crowd's eyes, each one plotting to find out the location of the Yanhuang tribe later. "I never expected the Yanhuang tribe to have so many good things," Bai Shi exclaimed in shock, followed by an even stronger greed. "But they're really foolish to expose themselves, and so many at once." Glancing at the burning greed in the eyes of those around him, he wanted to curse the Yanhuang tribe for their stupidity. How could they expose such good things all at once? Now, not only would the Yanhuang tribe be finished, but their treasures would also be divided up. Thinking of this, he felt indignant. In his eyes, the Yanhuang tribe's things already belonged to his Yan tribe. He couldn't help but show hostility in his eyes as he looked at the others. The others, harboring dark intentions, thought similarly, creating a strange atmosphere. However, it was unclear whether they had considered that since the Yanhuang tribe had proactively exposed these things, were they truly foolish, or did they have the confidence to do so? Or perhaps, the benefits had blinded them to reason. Of course, it might also be because Su Yun had only recently emerged and hadn't even participated in a single exchange meeting. Everyone else assumed it was just a newly formed tribe. Before long, the three men with the spear had given away all the meat they brought, reaping a great harvest, and everyone looked like they wanted more. In this place without seasonings, apart from a few people who aren't used to spicy food for the first time, everyone else loved the flavor. Finally, after the three men packed up and left, the crowd followed them to their lodgings before reluctantly departing. Bai Shi, looking excited, ran towards the rock tribe's lodgings. After running for a few minutes, he arrived at a wooden house, where two strong men stood outside the door. "Bai Shi," the guard asked, surprised, wondering what he was rushing about. "I have important news for the priest," he said, immediately knocking on the door. "Come in," a cold voice rang out. As Bai Shi entered the wooden house, the scene before him came into view. A woman with brown skin, dressed in brown linen, a robust build, and dignified features, standing imposingly in the room, stood in the center of the room. "Chief," Bai Shi greeted respectfully. The female chieftain nodded. If any outsiders were present, they would be astonished that the chief of the rock tribe was a woman. Chapter 288. The exchange meeting begins. In normal tribes, aside from female priests, the chief is usually a strong man. However, the rock tribe's goddess is a goddess, which has reversed the status of men and women in the tribe, with women taking the lead. In other words, women are valued more than men, whether in the eyes of the woman or the rock goddess, men are inferior to women. Therefore, not only is the rock tribe's chief female, but even the priests are female. "Chief, today," Bai Shi bowed his head respectfully and recounted his experiences. "What? So many good things?" the female chief asked in surprise. Bai Shi excitedly asked, "Chief, what should we do? When are we going to that Yanhuang tribe?" He thought the chief wouldn't refuse such a good opportunity. Sure enough, the next second, the female chieftain coldly laughed. "I will convey this matter to the gods, and they will make the decision. However, I think the gods probably think about the same thing as us." Bai Shi nodded excitedly, then hesitated, thinking of something. "I just don't know if the Yanhuang tribe was invited by the Thunder tribe. If so, then we're in trouble." The female chieftain was unconcerned and proudly said, "What's there to be afraid of? With the power of our rock goddess, are we afraid of that little tribe?" "That's true." Bai Shi thought for a moment, then relaxed. "With the strength of their rock tribe, They had nothing to fear from that tribe. Even if the other side was a large tribe, so what? You must know, there are differences between large tribes. Just like the Thunder tribe compared to their Rock tribe, even if the Rock tribe had 10 more members, it wouldn't be enough for the Thunder tribe to fight. Similarly, the Rock tribe, as a level 4 large tribe, would have the same result against a level 3 large tribe. The two guessed that even if the Yanhuang tribe wasn't a small tribe, at most it was just at the level of a large tribe, so there was nothing to worry about. Even if the Yanhuang tribe was a level 4 major tribe, it wouldn't matter. With the strength of the Yan tribe, the two were evenly matched, and the other couldn't do anything to them. Of course, this was just a hypothetical situation. Neither of them believed that the Yanhuang tribe was level 4. If it were truly level 4, how could they have never heard of it? Generally speaking, level 4 tribes possess level 4 divine warriors. How could they be so ignorant and impoverished? Their minds were limited. They couldn't believe that a god could break free from the limitations of time and become so powerful in such a short time. This was simply impossible. Soon, the female leader dismissed Bai Shi and contacted the goddess of rock, informing her of the situation. "I know about this," a cold female voice rang out. "If that god from the Yanhuang tribe is at the exchange meeting, I will deal with him after leaving the Thunder tribe. As for the Yanhuang tribe, I'll leave it to you." Her words were devoid of any emotion, as if eliminating the god of the Yanhuang tribe was as easy as eliminating a small insect. And indeed, the goddess of rock was confident that the god with no reputation was no match for her. Aside from the god of thunder, she had never feared any god. The female chieftain nodded excitedly. Su Yun sat in the wooden hut practicing his divine power. After the three men returned, he glanced at them. He naturally knew where they had gone. "I'm running low on faith crystals. Might as well take advantage of this opportunity to collect some." A flash of light appeared on his special ring, and a small mountain of snowflake salt, several meters high and refined from modern seawater, instantly appeared in the air. Su Yun called the three men in, and then, to their astonishment, handed them the snowflake salt. Time flew by, and 2 days passed quickly. In these 2 days, the name Yanhuang tribe became incredibly popular among all the tribes. Almost everyone knew about it. Everyone knew, more or less, that the Yanhuang tribe produced a kind of snow-white, fine salt. Thanks to the efforts of the three men and the quality of the snowflake salt itself, Su Yun had used up all the sea salt he had in these 2 days. The trade was booming like never before, and the name of the Yanhuang tribe had spread far and wide. However, while some rejoiced, others grieved. After the three men with the spear had sold such a large quantity of snowflake salt, the rock tribe nearly exploded. If it weren't for their grand plan, they would have killed the three men on the spot. "Damn it," Bai Shi gritted his teeth in hatred. "With the snowflake salt, who would want our salt anymore? Damn the Yanhuang tribe." Not only were the rock tribe members disgusted, but even the rock goddess harbored murderous intent. Salt was the foundation of their tribe. Su Yun, of course, was unaware that a god wished to kill him. At this moment, he was alone in the wooden house, his eyes fixed on the glittering objects before him. In front of him were 4 level 4 faith crystals, exchanged with the Thunder tribe using a large number of level 1 and level 2 faith crystals. "In my special ring, I have 75 level 3 faith crystals, 18 level 4 including these, and 3 level 5. I should have gotten more sea salt," Su Yun said with a hint of regret. He suddenly realized that although he seemed rich, he was actually very poor. It seems that the plan to swindle people needs to be put on the agenda, like opening the jar. At this moment, a voice came from outside the door. Mao's rough voice shouted, "Holy Sun, the people of the Thunder tribe said that the exchange meeting is about to begin, and they want us to invite the god to the throne to watch the competition." Finally here, Su Yun smiled slightly and said to the outside, "You three go first, the god and I will be there soon." "We'll go right away," Mao respectfully replied, and then the three of them walked towards the place where the competition was to be held. Inside the room, a sudden burst of light flashed, and the radiance shone in all directions, almost shining out of the room, but fortunately Su Yun controlled it in time. 2 bodies stood on the ground respectively, and Su Yun hesitated for a moment. Let the physical body go and take a look first. He strode towards the wooden door. With a creak, the wooden door was pushed open and closed again. Su Yun walked out and looked up at the sky. According to the time, it should be 7 or 8 in the morning. The sky was clear and blue, and the brilliant golden sunlight shone down. It was a sunny and beautiful day. He lowered his head and looked around. The road was bustling with people, all hurrying towards the open space for the competition. Just then, a rough, cursing voice rang out. "Hurry up, or we won't be able to squeeze in. I'll fight you." "Okay, okay, why the rush?" Amidst the complaints, the two quickly walked away. Soo-yoon smiled and quickly followed. The closer he got to the platform, the larger the crowd became, with constant noise. After walking for a while, Soo-yoon stopped, looking at the dense wall of people ahead. Instinctively, Soo-yoon cast his curious gaze towards the platform, carefully observing the figures on the various thrones. "Thank you Ki for the 200 book coins reward. Thank you Hacker Code B137 for the 200 Kidian coins reward. Thank you 41 for the 100 book coins reward. Thank you Jenny for the 100 reading points reward. Thank you everyone for the donations. But just a quick note, please subscribe if you can. Subscription data is quite important on Kidian Cap 3 Cap." Chapter 289 The Gods Appear. With Soo-yoon's exceptional eyesight, he easily discerned the appearances of the gods. The thrones were made of white stone, somewhat resembling jade. At the top was a single seat, occupied by a muscular, square-faced man in his 30s with bushy hair and beard. "This must be the god of thunder," Soo-yoon observed, scrutinizing the bearded figure. After a few glances, his gaze swept downwards. The next level had 3 seats, occupied by a handsome male god and a pink-clad goddess whose lower face was veiled. The last seat was empty, presumably because the gods hadn't arrived yet. On the final level, Soo-yoon quickly scanned 6 seats, then paused. Among them was the god of fire, with red hair and beard, his muscles bulging, exuding a majestic and robust aura. Next was a forest goddess with emerald green hair, appearing like a young girl, her features delicate like an elf. Finally, there was the god of wind, with brown hair and a tall, arrogant appearance. Besides the 3 familiar faces, there were 2 unfamiliar deities. One was a tall, handsome young man, and the other looked to be in his 20s with a honest and simple smile. The remaining seat was presumably his, located on the right, closest to the center. Below the platform, an open space for the competition was left empty. After observing the deities, Soo-yoon turned his gaze to the crowd. A vast, dark mass of people, roughly estimated at least 10,000, were crowding in front of the open space, peering out. The sheer number of onlookers surprised him slightly. So many people. Soo-yoon scanned the crowd closely and noticed that although they were packed together, they were arranged in an orderly fashion. At intervals, members of the Thunder Tribe stood, presumably separating the crowd to prevent overcrowding. Clearly, the Thunder Tribe was experienced in such matters, even going so far as to separate the crowd. On the platform, the god of thunder, seated at the highest throne, suddenly spoke majestically. "Have the other 2 gods not arrived yet?" His voice echoed across the platform, reaching the ears of the other gods on their white thrones. Seated below was the goddess of beauty, radiating a unique charm that drew attention even to the smallest gestures. Hidden beneath her pink veil, her beautifully shaped pale red lips curled into a slight, disdainful smile. The goddess of beauty scoffed, "That guy always likes to arrive last, huh?" The gods, frequent attendees of the gatherings, naturally knew who she was referring to. Besides another unfamiliar deity, only the goddess of rock remained. Upon reflection, they realized it was indeed true. The goddess of rock did indeed prefer to arrive last. The god of thunder, seated at the very top, couldn't help but show a hint of helplessness on his heroic face. He should have been angry, but considering the other's beauty, he couldn't help but indulge her. Beautiful people are always treated favorably and forgiven, and even the god of thunder was no exception. After ignoring the goddess of rock, the god of thunder frowned and turned his gaze to another seat. "Oh, right." The goddess of beauty suddenly remembered something and glanced at another empty seat with surprise. "There's someone even slower than that guy. That's surprising. Who is this newly joined god? Do you know him?" The goddess of beauty's alluring voice rang out, melodious and captivating. His beautiful blue eyes darted around, and he saw the 4th-level male god next to him shake his head, indicating that he didn't know. However, the 3rd-level gods at the bottom seemed to recognize him. The god of gale hesitated for a moment. "It's the god of light from the Yanhuan tribe, god of light." Except for the god of fire and the god of thunder, all the other gods showed surprise on their faces. The goddess of light, Athena, seemed thoughtful, muttering to herself, "The power of light, huh? That's quite a power." She chuckled softly and said, "Now that you mention it, I'm a little curious about her." I wonder what she looks like. Hearing about her appearance, the goddess of the forest and the god of the wind showed strange expressions, while the god of fire felt a ripple of emotion. Seeing their expressions, Athena became even more curious and was about to ask something. However, at that moment, a gasp suddenly came from the crowd below, drawing her attention. A yellow light was rapidly approaching from afar. As it drew closer, everyone could clearly see that within the yellow light was a goddess with a shapely figure, dressed in light blue. As she approached the platform, the figure stopped, and the yellow divine light surrounding her slowly dimmed and contracted. The slender figure was captured in the wide eyes of the gods and the mortals below. Long, pale yellow hair reaching her waist, a curvaceous figure, and most importantly, a breathtakingly beautiful face. She took a step, and with each step, streaks of yellow light appeared beneath her feet. Thus, she approached her divine throne step by step. The sounds of swallowing saliva echoed from the mortal crowd. Clearly, everyone was mesmerized. In this primitive society where beauty was generally lacking, accustomed to unattractive faces, the rock goddess's beauty, surpassing even that of modern actresses, deeply captivated them. The gods, however, reacted differently. The male gods, attracted by the rock goddess's beauty, were momentarily stunned. The god of fire was the quickest to recover, shaking his head slightly. The god of fire's reaction caused the rock goddess's eyes to flicker with surprise. At this moment, a crisp, cold snort echoed throughout the clearing, bringing everyone back from their reverie of the rock goddess's beauty. HMPH, the goddess of beauty snorted in disgust. The rock goddess, upon hearing this entrance, couldn't help but mutter, "Bitch, TCH, keep pretending," the beauty goddess shouted without restraint, a glint of disdain in her eyes. This single remark completely destroyed the atmosphere the rock goddess had created, causing a flash of murderous intent in her eyes as she also gave the beauty goddess a disgusted look. As the only two fourth-level goddesses among the gods, both possessing equally beautiful appearances, they were naturally bound to be enemies. While there's no first place in literature, there's no second in martial arts, and naturally, their beauty was equally important. The concern for appearance isn't limited to women, goddesses often feel it even more. The beauty goddess possessed a unique charm that elevated her overall status. The rock goddess, naturally, resented this, finding it simply slutty and often silently cursing her. The beauty goddess felt similarly disapproving of the rock goddess's affected allure and frequently muttered bitch to herself. If their strength hadn't been roughly equal, they might have already secretly attacked each other, tearing each other apart. The gods looked at the two with strange expressions. Alright, the god of thunder quickly smoothed things over, smiling at the goddess of rock. Since you're here, please take your seats. Hearing the god of thunder's voice, the goddess of rock could only glare at the goddess of beauty, then very politely sat down on the second throne. Next, only the god of light hadn't arrived yet. Chapter 290 Suyun makes his appearance. How have you been lately? Thunder god leered at rock goddess, his face full of smiles. Enduring thunder god's intrusive gaze, rock goddess smiled nonchalantly. Not bad. As she changed the subject, her mind raced, and she suddenly noticed an empty seat. Whose seat is this? Rock goddess glanced at the empty seat, her brow furrowing subtly. Thunder god's gaze remained fixed on rock goddess, and he casually replied, "It's the god of light from the Yanhuan tribe." The god of light from the Yanhuan tribe? Rock goddess was startled, immediately recognizing him. She hadn't expected the Yanhuan tribe to be such a newly powerful tribe. After a moment of surprise, she sneered inwardly, but unfortunately, with his strength, he's no match for me. She didn't believe any god could overcome the difference in their levels. At that moment, a glint flashed in rock goddess's eyes, and she smiled charmingly at thunder god, making him stare in disbelief. Then why hasn't this god of light arrived yet? He's really not giving you any face. She feigned surprise, covering her beautiful lips with her hand. The god of thunder, though knowing she was provoking him, couldn't help but feel annoyed. The goddess of beauty, seeing the goddess of rock's behavior, knew exactly what she was up to and, adhering to the principle of not letting her succeed, smiled. That's not necessarily true. Maybe he's like a younger sister, delayed by something. The god of thunder thought about it and realized it was quite possible. His anger subsided considerably. The goddess of rock immediately turned, staring intently at the goddess of beauty, secretly furious, wishing she could tear her apart. The goddess of beauty stood tall and proud, looking at him smugly. Everyone was used to this. The god of thunder opened his mouth, about to say something, when an anomaly in the sky immediately attracted the attention of all the gods and mortals. A layer of holy white light suddenly appeared from afar. In an instant, the crowd below was enveloped in the white light, feeling a sense of warmth. A dense white light flashed rapidly from afar. This familiar yet unfamiliar scene stunned mortals and even the gods. This spectacle was clearly more grand than the appearance of the rock goddess. The rock goddess's expression turned somewhat grim. While everyone was still stunned, the white light had already stopped near the high platform. The people below looked on with curiosity. This was the newly joined god. They quickly turned their gazes to Suyun, wanting to see what he looked like. Unfortunately, no matter how hard they looked, they could only see a hazy figure dressed in exquisite white robes. They couldn't see anything else. As for the gods on the high platform's throne, they were also surprised, because they couldn't glimpse his face from the white light either. Moreover, the gods could see that the light surrounding this god of light was not like that of the rock goddess, which was deliberately displayed. With the rock goddess, they could easily see her face through the light. This god of light's light was clearly innate, possessing the effect of concealing his figure. The gods unconsciously compared the two, and their expressions suddenly became a little strange. It felt like the difference between a genuine article and a counterfeit. This is the god of light. He looks really different. This guy is truly mysterious. Curiosity shone in the goddess of beauty's eyes. The gods looked at Suyun thoughtfully. Sorry, a little late. Suyun's voice, though cold, was incredibly melodious, sending a slight shiver down everyone's spine. If the voices of the goddess of beauty and the goddess of rock were melodious, then the god of light's voice was far beyond mere pleasantness. His voice possessed a special rhythm, like notes played by nature itself, captivating the listener. In modern terms, it was like being pregnant from hearing it. A hint of emotion flickered across the gods' faces. Even the god of fire and a few others, who thought they were used to it, couldn't help but sigh inwardly. If his voice was so beautiful, what about the person? After hearing the voice, the gods' curiosity about the god of light's true appearance intensified. Thank goodness he's a man. The goddess of beauty felt a sense of relief. If this were a goddess, it would be terrible. But now, even if his voice is beautiful, it's useless. He's still a male god. The killing intent in the goddess of rock's heart intensified, and she sneered inwardly. This is the god of light. Very good, humph. The god of thunder's tightly furrowed brows relaxed slightly, and he nodded majestically. Suyun didn't say much. His figure blurred, leaving an afterimage, and he was already sitting on the empty divine throne. As soon as he sat down, the god of fire on his right grinned at him. The goddess of the forest and the god of gale on his left also nodded to him. Seeing that all the gods had arrived, the god of thunder scanned the crowd. The rules for this competition are the same as before. After all the tribes fight one battle, the tribe with the most victories will receive 10 level 5 faith crystals as a reward. Go, brave warriors. As soon as the words were spoken, excited shouts rang out, the sounds deafening and echoing through the sky. Everyone was excited. In this primitive society, lacking entertainment and filled with bloodshed, fighting was the only form of entertainment for people. And there were 10 level 5 faith crystals. What a fortune! Not only were the mortals excited, but even the gods on the high platform were somewhat moved. 10 level 5 faith crystals. For them, this was a huge windfall. Thunder is so generous, Suyun said with some surprise, glancing at the god of thunder. Even for him, 10 level 5 faith crystals were enough to replenish his divine power many times over. To be honest, he was quite tempted. Suddenly, the goddess of beauty sighed resentfully, glaring at the god of thunder. Sigh, you always say that. It's almost always your tribe that wins, haha. The god of thunder laughed, his laughter brimming with confidence. Since he dared to offer 10 level 5 faith crystals as a reward, it was obviously because his thunder tribe, barring any unforeseen circumstances, was virtually invincible. After laughing, the god of thunder looked at the goddess of beauty and suddenly said ambiguously, if you want it, I can let your tribe win this time. Hearing this offer of leniency, the goddess of beauty wasn't surprised. Instead, she glared at the god of thunder again. She knew exactly what he was thinking. So that's how it is. Suyun, listening to their conversation, suddenly understood. It turned out the god of thunder had just waved the reward around before taking it back. No wonder he acted like a nouveau riche. A slight smile played on his lips. Interesting. Once the murmurs below had subsided, the god of thunder smiled and turned his gaze to the assembled gods, asking majestically, who is willing to be the first to send someone to the battle arena? The gods exchanged knowing glances. Suddenly, one of the fourth-level gods sitting on the second tier spoke up. A magnetic voice rang out, "If you don't want to, then I'll be the first." The handsome male god smiled slightly. Not long after he finished speaking, a robust-looking, ordinary-looking young man automatically stepped forward from below the arena. He shouted loudly, "Who'll fight me?" Chapter 291 Challenge to Suyun. On the high platform, a clear female voice chuckled, "Since you're not going, then I'll go." After a few seconds of silence, the goddess of beauty pursed her lips and used threads of faith to signal her followers to take the stage. Then, she turned to the fourth-level male god and said in a seductive, soft voice, "Brother god of hunting, you must tell your followers to be gentle. It wouldn't be good if they hurt my followers." Of course, the god of hunting was taken aback, a hint of unease flashing across his face. The goddess of beauty's eyes curved into a smile. The goddess of rock, seeing this, secretly spat, "She's just like that, always likes this kind of thing." Suyun glanced at the fourth-level gods, wondering what their authority was. The god of fire, seeing him turn his head, knew what he was thinking and restricted the sound's propagation, confining it to a small area. A deep voice rang out, "The first one to speak is the god of hunting, the one wearing a veil is the goddess of beauty, and the other is the goddess of rock." Suyun nodded thoughtfully to the god of fire. As he spoke, Vulcan's face showed some regret. "It's a pity, I'm still a bit short of becoming a fourth-level god." He looked enviously at the seats above, then looked down at the god of light, feeling a sense of shared misery and an urge to speak his mind. Those three fourth-level gods are terrifyingly strong. I've seen them fight with my own eyes. They're far beyond what we can handle right now. Even if you, god of light, are incredibly strong, you should still be careful. It's best not to offend them if possible, he kindly advised. "Is that so?" Suyun chuckled, revealing a cryptic smile. Vulcan was confused by his laughter, wondering why he was laughing. Was he wrong? Unable to figure it out, he didn't dwell on it, then something else occurred to him. Sitting here at the very bottom is really uncomfortable. I wonder when we'll be able to move up here. This feeling of being inferior to them is really unpleasant. If it weren't for his inferior strength, he would definitely protest this arrangement. Is advancing really that difficult? Suyun glanced at him. You must have only recently become a level 3 god, so you have no idea how difficult this advancement is. The god of fire shook his head. Although we don't have the so-called bottlenecks of mortals, and the vastness of our divine power and the wonder of our authority are beyond their reach, it still takes a long time to accumulate experience before we can advance. He felt a pang of sadness. He had been preparing to become a level 4 god for a long time, but he still hadn't succeeded. Acquiring people might be relatively easy, but the resulting food problem was holding him back. Suddenly, his mood inexplicably improved, and he smiled proudly, "But it'll be soon. In just a few more years, I'll be able to advance to level 4 god, and then I can sit on top." "Oh?" Suyun looked at him in surprise. Hearing his voice, the god of fire thought he was feeling down, and immediately said generously, "Don't worry, once I become a level 4 god, just let me know if you need any help." Suyun replied calmly, "I will." As they talked, the battle on the battle platform came to an end. The muscular young man's opponent was a slender, somewhat beautiful woman in her 20s, a follower of the goddess of beauty. Suyun pondered. Judging from their auras, both were only at the 2nd level. It seemed they were being tested by a 4th-level god. Divine art, charm. Suddenly, a low shout rang out in the arena. The goddess warrior abruptly waved her hand, and a beautiful pink energy beam shot rapidly towards the man. Not good. The muscular man's expression changed. He was currently at the point where his old strength was exhausted and new strength had not yet been generated, so he had no time to completely dodge. The pink energy beam grazed the man's right arm. The muscular man frowned. He hadn't felt any pain. Just as he was wondering about this for a moment, he realized something was wrong. While he was still dazed, a different scene unfolded on the battle stage. After the pink energy beam grazed the man, amidst the gasps of the crowd, the man stood frozen in place, breathing heavily, his eyes glazed as he looked at the woman. "We've lost." The god of hunting shook his head regretfully on the high platform. The goddess of beauty chuckled softly. Sure enough, the battle ended. Taking advantage of the man's subdued state, the goddess of beauty's follower rushed forward and placed a bone knife to his neck. Once he regained consciousness, he could only helplessly admit defeat. Seeing the goddess of beauty's follower win, the god of thunder asked, "Well, shall we continue?" The goddess of beauty pondered for a moment and smiled. My tribe shouldn't steal the spotlight, so let the other tribes take their turn. The god of thunder turned to the other gods, who's willing to step up. Before he could finish speaking, Su-Yun saw the god of fire sitting beside him, seemingly wanting to join the fray. However, before the god of fire could speak, another god spoke first. The goddess of rock's eyes flashed, and she suddenly looked at Su-Yun, revealing a charming smile, and said kindly, God of light, I'm very curious about you. Why don't we send someone over? The gods looked at them with varying expressions. Su-Yun narrowed his eyes, thinking to himself, this woman. Ever since he arrived, he had noticed something was off about this woman. Her gaze towards him was unfriendly. After a quick thought for a second or two, he suddenly realized something. In an instant, he had roughly guessed the basic situation from the salt-selling rock tribe. She's treating me like an easy target. Su-Yun's lips curled slightly, then calmed down. Fine, I agree, a cold voice rang out. He hoped this woman wouldn't go too far, otherwise. The goddess of rock was somewhat surprised upon hearing this. She had thought this god of light would be afraid of her level 4 tribe's status and thus wouldn't dare to fight her. Now it seemed she had some courage, or rather, she was foolish. The difference in level between tribes meant that even within the same level, the strength of believers would vary. It was a generally accepted fact that the higher the level of the tribe, the stronger the members of the same level. Since you're foolish, then don't blame me. Seeing a young man in his 20s, who looked somewhat dull, already standing on the platform, the goddess of rock smiled contemptuously and then selected a thread of faith. A man in his 30s, with a dark and rugged face, suddenly heard the divine message from the goddess. During the battle later, if possible, pretend to have accidentally killed that Yanhuan tribesman. Yes, Yun replied excitedly. He glanced furtively at Li on the platform, grinned maliciously, and strode towards the battle stage. The fire god and the others, hearing the light god's agreement, immediately knew something was wrong. Sigh, the fire god frowned on his rugged face. Light god, that rock tribe isn't so easy to deal with. Why did you agree? Thanks to for the 300 book coins reward. Thank you to for the 100 Kidian coins reward. Chapter 292 Battles between tribal warriors. The forest god and the wind god beside them shook their heads, secretly lamenting the light god's impulsiveness. As a level 3 major tribe, even if they wanted to challenge those level 4 major tribes, they could have waited for other tribes to challenge them. Once their intelligence was leaked, their chances of success would be much greater. At this moment, they could only hope that the light god's followers had more methods, so that there might still be a chance of victory. Su-Yun shook his head and didn't say anything more. Just as they were worrying, the two divine warriors on the high platform began to sign their names to each other. Yan tribe, level 3 divine warrior Yun, who was over 30 years old and had a dark face, grinned ferociously. Li was silent for a moment before speaking. Yanhuan tribe, level 3 divine warrior Li, so your name is Li. Yun seemed to realize something, then grinned maliciously. You are definitely no match for me. The difference in the foundation between tribes is not as simple as you think. As soon as he finished speaking, he roared and pounced on Li, drawing a bone knife behind him. Yun is right. The gap in resources between tribes isn't so easily bridged. We Thunder Tribe shouldn't lose here before we even have the chance to challenge them. You and the other two in the crowd stared intently at the platform, taking this opportunity to assess the strength of the Yanhuan tribe. Li's eyes narrowed, and he instantly became alert, quickly drawing his bone knife from his waist. Seeing the blade coming straight at him, he raised his bone knife to block it. With a clang, both of them shuddered slightly, feeling the terrifying force of the other. A hint of surprise flashed in Yun's eyes. This guy's strength was actually no weaker than his own. Before he could think further, their blades clashed many times in just a few breaths. Seeing that simple attacks were ineffective, Yun simply dodged away. Not bad, he sneered, but the warm-up is over. Now I'll show you the divine magic of our rock tribe. The next second, divine magic, earth strike. As soon as he finished speaking, Li, who was on guard, suddenly felt a strong sense of danger coming from underground, startling him. Purely on instinct, he instinctively dodged several meters away. Boom, boom, boom. 3 consecutive loud explosions erupted as 3 cone-shaped rock spikes, each as thick as a man's waist and over a meter high, rapidly bulged from the ground where Li had been standing. Had Li not dodged quickly, he would have been severely injured, if not killed. Seeing this, He dared not be careless and immediately unleashed his divine magic, holy flame. Just as he was feeling smug, he suddenly saw a massive white flame rushing towards him. Caught completely off guard, he froze. Not only him, but even the other mortals and gods watching were somewhat astonished. Wasn't this the move of the fire god's followers? The gods looked at the fire god with strange eyes. Seeing this, the fire god smiled helplessly. Don't look at me like that, god of light, this isn't flame. Look closely for yourselves. Oh, the gods exclaimed in surprise, their gazes fixed on the flame. Upon closer inspection, they realized that although this thing possessed high temperatures and resembled flames, its essence was not flames, but rather a combination of light, heat, and energy. So that's it, they exclaimed. Their astonishment dispelled. I want to see what's so special about the god of light's divine magic. The goddess of rock's eyes flashed with a sharp light as she stared intently at the white flames, preparing to gather as much information as possible to avoid any unforeseen events. The other gods were also very curious. They certainly wouldn't miss such a good opportunity to gather information. On the platform, Yoon Gang had only been stunned for a short while when the intense heat washing over him brought him back to his senses. He hadn't even touched it yet, and he was almost roasted alive. Such powerful flames, surprised, he dared not be careless and hastily used another divine magic at the last second. Divine magic, armor. As soon as he finished speaking, a yellow, slightly transparent armor enveloped every part of his body. At that moment, the flames completely enveloped him. Haha, mere flames, you think you can hurt me? Seeing that he could no longer feel the high temperature, he laughed triumphantly. On the high platform, this is the divine magic of the god of light. The gods were honestly a little disappointed. They thought this divine magic would be much more powerful, but they didn't expect it to only have high temperature. The goddess of rock's eyes flashed with disdain. The three gods of fire exchanged glances, their expressions somewhat strange. Of course, they knew that the divine magic of the god of light was not so simple, but judging from the flames of this believer, it didn't seem to have inherited that abnormal effect. Suyun wasn't disappointed. The holy flame now only had the holy attribute left. It was normal for it to be used normally against the believer of the goddess of rock, but on the battle platform, Yoon had only been triumphant for 2 or 3 seconds when he suddenly felt something, and his expression changed. He actually felt a high temperature. His armor even seemed to be melting. The temperature of the flames was so high that Yoon was shocked for a moment, and then a hidden killing intent flashed in his eyes. I must finish him off as soon as possible. Braving the raging flames, he fiercely charged towards Lee. Lee naturally knew his plan and tried his best to dodge. Unfortunately, with his opponent clad in armor and acting recklessly in a frenzy, he was completely helpless against Yoon, and for a moment, he was in grave danger. A bone blade slashed across his chest, leaving a gruesome, narrow wound, a sharp pain shooting through him as blood splattered. Lee grunted, clearly at a disadvantage. Among the onlookers, Yu's eyes flashed with disappointment. Are they going to lose? Is this all the Yanhuang tribe is capable of? On the high platform, the goddess of rock, seeing victory in sight, grew even more contemptuous, thinking that the god of light's divine magic was nothing special. She turned to the god of light with a smile, saying regretfully, "It seems I've won this time." The god of fire, hearing this, was about to offer some words of comfort to the god of light, but before he could speak, the god of light said, "How can you tell until the very last moment? Is that so?" The goddess of rock smiled disdainfully. All the gods thought the god of light was just being stubborn. Suyun also noticed the problem. The holy flame's attack power was insufficient. After a moment's thought, he realized, there's no other way, I can only temporarily bestow other divine arts. With that thought, he closed his eyes. Inside the divine space, Suyun glanced at the numerous characters, then focused his gaze on the golden wheel character. Compared to the other characters, this one didn't have any special effects, just pure power. But precisely because of this, it could retain more power. On the battle platform, Li Gang dodged the earth strike technique, and while catching his breath, he cast a healing spell on himself. As the gruesome wounds on his body began to heal, he breathed a slight sigh of relief. Am I going to lose? Just as he was thinking this, he suddenly looked up at the platform, his expression hardening. I can't lose. Seeing that his injuries had healed considerably, Yoon on the opposite side showed surprise. I didn't expect you to have healing abilities. It's truly unexpected, he said with surprise, but also with a hint of jealousy. He really hadn't expected the Yanhuang tribe to possess such a divine art. If his tribe had such a divine art, wouldn't it be much harder for people to die? It's a pity, your divine arts are indeed good, but the power doesn't seem very strong, he said smugly. It'll be over soon. As he spoke, he had almost figured out how to kill this person without arousing suspicion. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 293 Conflict. Just as Lee was about to fight desperately, an anomaly within his body stunned him. A brand new character had appeared within him. He was overjoyed. Without thinking too much, he activated the character in the next moment. In an instant, his divine power was violently depleted. A fist-sized, golden sphere suddenly appeared beside him. With the appearance of the golden wheel, everyone was stunned. What kind of divine art was this? The three gods of fire were startled and exchanged surprised glances. What is this? After his initial surprise, Yoon relaxed. Whatever it was, this guy named Lee was doomed. Lee was startled by his cold gaze and subconsciously activated the golden wheel. Golden light flashed. Boom. The ferocious expression on Yoon's face froze, his eyes reflecting the golden light. Splat. A golden pillar, 2 fingers thick, pierced through his chest like lightning before he could react. His armor couldn't withstand it, and in an instant, searing pain shot through him. He stared wide-eyed in disbelief and coughed up a mouthful of blood. Everyone who thought the battle was won, including the gods on the platform, was shocked. Light God, you, the goddess of rock, looked at Su-yoon, her face filled with disbelief. The three gods of fire, who had initially been worried, exchanged bitter smiles. The gazes of the gods turned to the light god, filled with surprise and apprehension. On the battle platform, Yoon stared blankly at the golden pillar that had pierced him. How could there be such a powerful attack? Even my armor couldn't withstand it, he exclaimed incredulously. Lee didn't waste any words, directly controlling the golden pillar to slice through. Instantly, blood spurted out. The terrifying wound that had almost severed half his body appeared on Yoon's body, leaving him with no strength to resist. His body went limp, and he collapsed to his knees with a thud. Ugh, he coughed up another mouthful of blood. I lost, my rock tribe lost. Not only had he failed to fulfill the goddess's request, he had also lost. Shock and despair uncontrollably filled his eyes. The wound burned with excruciating pain, and his consciousness began to blur. How could there be such powerful divine magic? With this last thought, his kneeling figure collapsed completely to the ground. Bang! Dust billowed. A moment of silence followed, then the tens of thousands of onlookers erupted in cheers, excitedly looking towards the battle platform. A level 3 tribe had defeated a level 4 tribe. How long had it been since such a thing had happened? Damn it! Baishi glared at Lee with fury, gritting his teeth. Yoon was careless. He didn't even use a semi-divine artifact. The level 4 tribe's warriors naturally possessed more divine magic than the level 3 tribes, and their long-term consumption of divinely bestowed plants made them far more powerful than the average level 3 tribe member. Besides, they had the advantage of semi-divine artifacts. While believers were not allowed to use true divine artifacts on the battle platform, they were permitted to use items with special powers. In other words, the tribe with more semi-divine artifacts naturally had a greater chance of winning. With all these factors combined, Yoon should have had a better chance of victory. Who would have thought such a monstrous divine art would appear? That guy named Lee's flames were so ordinary, how did they become so overpowered on that golden sphere? Even Yoon had brought a semi-divine artifact for this battle, yet he didn't even have the chance to use it, losing so easily. On the platform, the god of thunder, seeing the goddess of rock staring intently at the god of light, fearing she might attack, coughed a few times. He looked at the god of light and praised, "God of light, your divine art is very powerful. Do you want to continue?" Su-yoon hesitated, about to say something. However, the goddess of rock beat him to it, her gaze cold as she said, "I still want to challenge the Yanhuang tribe." The god of thunder raised an eyebrow, glanced at her, and then looked at the god of light. "You've already fought the rock tribe once. According to the rules, you can refuse her challenges later, is that so?" Su-yoon smiled, then said calmly, "Then I refuse." "You?" The goddess of rock's chest heaved violently, her face filled with resentment. The goddess of beauty's eyes darted around, and she chuckled, "Since the god of light is unwilling, sister, you shouldn't force him. Or I'll send someone to fight your followers." "Who's your sister?" the goddess of rock glared at the goddess of beauty. The goddess of beauty didn't care and continued to smile sweetly, in a good mood. The atmosphere instantly became tense. At this moment, the commotion on the platform broke the tense atmosphere and attracted the attention of all the gods. The rock tribe members went up to the platform, and after checking Yoon's injuries, they cried out in panic. Yoon lay on the platform, blood flowing all over the ground, barely breathing. "Yoon, he's dying." "What?" Everyone was shocked. The injuries were so serious. "Quickly, give him some healing divine fruit." Someone reacted quickly and immediately reminded them. "No, he's unconscious and can't eat anything." On the high platform, the goddess of rock's expression changed slightly. Even as a fourth-level god, she felt a pang of heartache at the thought of losing a third-level follower. After a few seconds of anxiety, she suddenly thought of something, and her gaze instantly swept sharply towards the god of light. "God of light, I remember your followers possess rare healing magic, don't they?" The gods, who had been watching the spectacle with varying expressions, suddenly remembered what had happened upon hearing the voice of the goddess of rock. They had almost forgotten about healing magic if the goddess of rock hadn't mentioned it. Healing magic was definitely a rare type of divine art. Even among the gods, the god of light's healing magic was exceptional. None of them possessed any healing spells. When the people were injured, they relied on ordinary herbs or divinely bestowed plants, nothing compared to the convenience of healing magic. For a moment, all the gods, including the god of thunder, looked at the god of light with envy. The goddess of rock didn't care about the god of light's answer, because she trusted what she had seen with her own eyes. The next second, her gaze was haughty, and she spoke in a commanding tone. "Tell him to heal my followers." Her cold, melodious voice was deliberately amplified throughout the open space, clearly reaching the ears of over 10,000 mortals. The mortals' astonished gazes instantly turned to the god of light. The gods were taken aback by the rock goddess's actions, and for a moment, their gazes turned to the god of light with varying expressions. Some were gloating, some were watching the spectacle, and some were worried and angry. A hint of contempt flashed in the rock goddess's eyes. Just when the gods thought that the god of light, though frustrated, would eventually succumb to the pressure of a fourth-level god, unexpected words echoed in the silent world. "You are commanding me," a cold voice rang out. "Thank you Yudi for the 200 book coins reward. Thank you Luoji for the 100 Kidian coins reward. Thank you 201910272120425991 feet for the 100 Kidian coins reward." Chapter 294 The Shocked Gods. The scene fell silent. Everyone was stunned, staring at Su-yoon in disbelief. They were shocked. The god of light spoke to the goddess of rock in such a tone. Wasn't he afraid? The expressions on the gods' faces were also complex, a mixture of admiration and disbelief, as if they were looking at a madman. The goddess of rock's disdainful expression froze, her eyes wide as she stared at Su-yoon, her expression somewhat comical. She almost thought she was hallucinating. How could she hear such words? "God of light," the three gods beside her gasped. A look of anxiety appeared in the god of fire's eyes. He was about to say something tactfully. But before they could speak, a cold, mocking female voice instantly echoed throughout the open space. "Fine, very well. You're going to reject me." Her words were full of anger, her face flushed. Being rejected in public by a third-level god, she felt a burning pain on her cheeks. She could even faintly sense the mocking gaze in the eyes of the goddess of beauty beside her, making her want to tear the god of light apart. She felt utterly humiliated. She had actually been rejected by a third-level god. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became, and the anger and killing intent in the eyes of the goddess of rock surged. Suddenly, something occurred to her, her eyes flashed, and she laughed in extreme anger. The next second, something unexpected happened to mortals and gods alike. The goddess of rock moved without warning. Her finger suddenly moved, pointing at Su-yoon, and a yellow energy pillar as thick as a human head shot towards him like lightning. A terrifying aura swept through the surroundings in an instant, causing everyone to pale in horror. The god's expressions also changed. Don't be fooled by the seemingly small attack, which seemed inconsistent with the world-destroying power that a fourth-level god could easily unleash. It was by no means weak. It wasn't that the greater the range, the greater the power. At least the goddess of rock's current attack intensity was no weaker than when she launched a large-scale attack. The thought that such an attack was aimed at the god of light filled them with pity. The goddess of rock's actions were so sudden that, apart from the god of thunder, the other gods were too late to stop her. A flash of anger crossed the god of thunder's eyes. Making a move in the thunder tribe, what was she trying to do? He was about to stand up to intervene, but the scene before him made him stop. At the moment the goddess of rock launched her sneak attack, the gods had expected the god of light to be too slow to react, but the reality was completely different. Time seemed to slow down, and instead, the god of light, whom they had all thought was too slow to react, actually stood up from his seat. They knew it wasn't that they had slowed down, but rather an illusion caused by the god of light's incredible speed. How could this be? The gods were filled with astonishment. Suyun raised his eyes, staring indifferently at the attack that was about to strike, an attack powerful enough to kill a third-level god. In the ears of the gods and mortals, only a cold voice rang out. Attacks will fail here. As the last words faded, the yellow energy pillar struck just half a meter in front of Suyun. He remained expressionless, coldly watching the attack approach. Just as the gods were bewildered, a scene that shocked them unfolded. The energy pillar, capable of killing or severely injuring a third-level god, stopped. It froze half a meter in front of the god of light, completely immobile. No, it wasn't frozen. The gods noticed something amiss. Less than a second after the attack froze, it began to dissipate. Tiny specks of yellow energy drifted away, and whoosh, the energy pillar vanished like a wisp of smoke. The gods instinctively took a deep breath. Whether it was the god of thunder or anyone else, they all felt as if they were dreaming. They had imagined many scenarios, including the god of light struggling to withstand the attack, but none included this. With a simple sentence, the energy pillar mysteriously dissipated. Below, Bai Shi's expression changed drastically. How did the god of light do that? Gasps of astonishment echoed from the mortal crowd, utterly shattering their imaginations. On the high platform, the goddess of rock, recovering from her daze, suddenly screamed, "This is impossible." She simply couldn't believe that her attack against the god of light had vanished with a single sentence. A mere third-level god. Her face flushed red, a glint of madness flashed in her eyes, and without a word, she raised her hand to attack again. Boom, boom, boom. 3 identical yellow energy pillars shot towards Suyun's face. Seeing this, the god of thunder paused, his raised hand fixed on the god of light. Under everyone's gaze, the 3 energy pillars reached Suyun again, but the same scene unfolded. The attacks couldn't even get close to the god of light, they mysteriously dissipated upon reaching him. If the previous attacks could be attributed to chance, the current situation left them no room for doubt. They recalled the words the god of light had spoken earlier. Attacks will fail here, someone murmured. Mortals, including the gods, suddenly understood something, but that only made it more unbelievable. A single sentence could have such a terrifying effect. I don't believe it. The goddess of rock couldn't accept this, her voice was distorted. This must be some kind of limited method, don't try to scare me. Yes, that's right. Her eyes were filled with anger, and she raised her hand again, ready to launch another attack. However, before she could launch another attack, the voice of the god of light resounded throughout the entire world. Have you had enough fun? Suyun said emotionlessly. With that, he stepped into the air, walking towards the goddess of rock. At the same time, a terrifying aura emanated from him. Boom. As his aura swept around, strong winds pressed down in all directions. The air around Suyun began to distort. An even more terrifying scene appeared. Under his aura, the celestial phenomena began to slowly change. The originally clear sky had inexplicably darkened. The tens of thousands of mortals below were horrified. They had never seen such a terrifying sight before. It was as if the sky had collapsed. Everyone felt fear, and some even knelt on the ground in terror. Compared to them, the gods on the platform were even more terrified. Even the god of thunder, who had been so confident of victory, paled drastically. A 4th-level god. The goddess of rock murmured blankly, taking a step back in shock as she watched the god of light descend through the air. The other gods weren't much better off. The goddess of beauty and the god of hunting were both shocked and bewildered. When did a 4th-level god appear nearby? How come they didn't know? The 3 gods beside them, including the god of fire, were completely dumbfounded. No one knew the god of light better than them. They remembered that the god of light had only recently become a 3rd-level god, and now. Chapter 295 The Terrifying God of Light. The god of fire felt a pang of unease. Had the goddess of rock not been enraged, would the god of light have remained unaware, still believing him to be a third-tier god? Remembering his earlier boastful words, he felt utterly embarrassed, wishing he could disappear into a hole. He exchanged a glance with the forest and the gale, both seeing bitterness in each other's eyes. Was this the difference? The god of thunder, after his initial shock, gazed intently at the god of light. This situation, outside his control, filled him with unease. Just as the gods were still reeling from the shock, Su-Yun looked at the goddess of rock and spoke again. "Have you had enough fun?" he repeated. His icy voice sent chills down their spines. If they had previously taken it as a joke, now they couldn't help but feel tense. If these two were to fight, wouldn't they be caught in the crossfire? The thought filled them with panic. The goddess of rock, feeling the oppressive aura enveloping her, regretted her actions. She cursed inwardly, "Damn god of light. Why pretend to be a third-level god when you can just be a fourth-level god?" If she had known he was a god of the same level, how could she have offended him? And the aura emanating from him was terrifying. Frankly, even she felt a chill. He was clearly not an ordinary fourth-level god. Damn it. However, no matter how much she cursed and regretted it, offending a god of the same level was a fact. The goddess of rock gritted her teeth, her exquisite face contorted with anger. "What do you want? I admit I was wrong before, but for such a small conflict, you don't want an enemy of equal strength, do you?" A small conflict. Su-Yun's lips curled slightly. This woman really knew how to argue. If he hadn't been a fourth-level god, he would have been seriously injured, if not dead, by now, right? This woman spoke so lightly. Looking at that beautiful face, a murderous intent surged uncontrollably within him. This woman was already on his death list. "Since it's a small conflict, then you'll take my attack too." Su-Yun's tone was devoid of emotion. Before the goddess of rock could speak, a golden sphere, the golden wheel, suddenly appeared beside him and burst into bloom in the blink of an eye. Boom! The golden beam of light shot forward at incredible speed. The god of thunder frowned, raising his hand to stop them from fighting in the tribe, but then, as if remembering something, his gaze fixed on the golden wheel, and he stopped his blocking motion. The goddess of rock's expression changed drastically. Too fast. Fortunately, she was strong enough to react instantly. The next second, a hemispherical, perfectly smooth yellow shield appeared in front of the golden wheel. "Even if we are both fourth-level gods, I'm not afraid," she breathed a sigh of relief, her face full of confidence. Boom! The two collided. Less than a second after contact, the shield shattered with a cracking sound. "Impossible," the goddess of rock exclaimed. She tried to dodge, but it was too late. If she had managed to dodge during the brief moment the shield blocked her, she might have actually managed to avoid it, but now, with her overconfidence, the rock goddess paled, her eyes filled with a reflection of golden light. Ah! With a scream, everyone was shocked to see the golden pillar pierce through the rock goddess's right abdomen. The rock goddess gritted her teeth and instantly broke free from the golden pillar. Then clutched her abdomen and stared at the god of light in disbelief. One strike and he injured the rock goddess, someone muttered to themselves. Su-Yun withdrew the golden wheel, and the rock goddess breathed a sigh of relief, saying hatefully, "You?" However, just when she and everyone else thought the god of light had stopped, a horrifying scene appeared. The area around Su-Yun was distorted by a terrifying aura, but no one paid attention to this now, because, golden, beautiful yet terrifying golden spheres suddenly appeared behind Su-Yun. In the blink of an eye, everyone saw 9 golden spheres floating behind the god of light. Hiss! Gasps of cold air continued to emanate from the scene. The goddess of rock stared blankly at the 9 golden wheels, utterly dumbfounded. 1, 2, 9. In an instant, her face paled, turning deathly white, her eyes filled with terror. She screamed, "What do you want to do? What do you think?" Su-Yun coldly approached step by step, his aura growing increasingly terrifying with each step. The sky above had completely darkened. Coupled with the 9 terrifying golden wheels behind him, not only the horrified goddess of rock, but even the goddess of beauty and the god of hunting showed fear in their eyes. They had witnessed the power of these golden wheels before. 2 or 3 were manageable, but if 9 were launched together, the terrifying sight. The gods broke out in a cold sweat, their pity turning to the goddess of rock. Su-Yun waved his right hand, and the 9 golden wheels flew before him. Seeing this, the goddess of rock could no longer hold back. Completely disregarding her pride, She instantly broke down, crying out, "God of Thunder, save me!" Su Yun paused, turning to look at the God of Thunder. Sigh, the God of Thunder sighed, looking majestically at the God of Light. "How about the God of Light giving me some face? According to the rules, fighting is forbidden in my tribe." The implication was clear: fight elsewhere, not in his tribe. "I wanted to stop the goddess of rock from attacking earlier, but seeing your situation, I didn't. I didn't expect you, God of Light, to be so well hidden." As he spoke, his face was full of amazement, yet a sense of apprehension crept into his heart. Thankfully, he was still only level 4, not yet out of control. After thinking this, the God of Thunder fixed his gaze on the God of Light, awaiting his answer. Hearing his words, Su Yu naturally knew he wasn't lying. There had indeed been signs of an attack at that time. However, sensing the subtle pressure in the God of Thunder's eyes, he frowned slightly and pondered. After a long while, just when everyone thought he was about to refuse and erupt in anger, a cold voice rang out. "God of Thunder, since you've said so, then I won't interfere in your tribe." With that, under his terrifyingly precise control, the golden wheels behind him dissipated one by one. The goddess of rock breathed a sigh of relief, a hint of joy appearing in her eyes. Unfortunately, at that moment, the God of Light coldly turned to look at her, his flat voice echoing in everyone's ears. "Goddess of rock, you're nothing special, so fragile." He turned away disdainfully. A multitude of gazes instantly came from the crowd of mortals. The goddess of rock's face stiffened, her exquisite features contorted. In front of so many people, he actually dared. Her eyes reddened, her teeth nearly grinding to powder. She wanted to kill everyone who looked at her, her heart filled with boundless hatred. "Thank you Ki for the 1,382 book coins reward. Thank you Jenny for the 100 reading points reward." Chapter 296 The Discussing Crowd. If it weren't for a last shred of reason telling the goddess of rock that she was no match for this guy, she would have recklessly charged into fight. Thinking this, she suddenly remembered something. "That's right, I still have a divine artifact I haven't used. With it, the outcome is uncertain." The possibility it brought made her eyes light up. "Yes, I haven't lost yet." She would never forget the humiliation of losing face in front of so many mortals. Just as she regained some confidence from her devastated state, a gloating laugh suddenly came from beside her. "Hey!" The goddess of beauty's laughter rang out like the sound of silver bells. "You?" The goddess of rock turned her head, staring intently at the goddess of beauty, wishing she could tear her face apart. The goddess of beauty was completely unfazed by her murderous gaze and continued to laugh. "All right, take your seats," the god of thunder spoke up. Hearing this, the goddess of beauty and the goddess of rock had no choice but to give up and return to their seats. Although all the gods had returned to their places, the crowd was still buzzing with discussion. Everyone looked at the god of light sitting at the bottom, their eyes filled with fear. Who could have imagined that the god of light was even stronger than the goddess of rock? The god of light probably didn't hear that, did he? "You?" A member of the crowd was somewhat terrified, a sense of lingering fear rising in his heart. Recalling what he had said earlier, he trembled with apprehension, fearing that the god of light might displease him and slap him to death. Even the plan to humiliate the Yan Huang tribe that followed, after witnessing the god of light's immense power, made him hesitate about whether to cancel it. Black Mountain, standing beside him, said helplessly, "It seems that the sun at that time was very likely created by the god of light himself, not by external means as I had previously thought." The god of light, so mysterious, apart from them. Whitestone, a member of the crowd, was filled with disappointment. He actually lost. A god had actually been defeated by a god with no reputation whatsoever. The crowd was discussing the dying rock tribe believer, who had died completely due to delayed treatment. However, apart from the goddess of rock's deep resentment, probably no one cared anymore. On the high platform, the god of thunder, sensing the tense atmosphere, pondered for a moment, then issued a command to his followers. After finishing these tasks, he looked at the other gods. "Who else wants to send someone to the battle arena?" After a few seconds, seeing no one answer, he spoke up, "If no one else does, then I'll send someone first this time." With that, another order was relayed. Soon, a sturdy, but rather short, young man stood on the battle arena. The god of thunder glanced around, gesturing with his eyes. "You're all too timid. Let my followers handle it then," said the goddess of beauty. She then turned to the god of thunder, chuckling, "God of thunder, you'd better tell your followers to be gentle. That depends on your performance," the god of thunder said, leering at her. with a goddess of beauty sending a goddess warrior, and after exchanging greetings, the battle began on the arena. Suyun, back in his seat, narrowed his eyes, preparing to carefully observe the god of thunder's divine magic. On the battle arena, the young man, Laming, laughed loudly. Divine magic, thunder spear. With that, he clenched his fist, and a nearly white bolt of lightning appeared in his hand. The lightning twisted and contorted, resembling a long, double-pointed spear. The next moment, Laming hurled the lightning spear at the female warrior opposite him. The lightning howled and twisted in the air. "Ah!" the female warrior cried out in surprise. She knew the power of the lightning spear. The lightning grazed her right arm, causing it to go numb and blood to gush out instantly. Boom! The lightning spear slammed into the ground, creating a crater several meters wide, with wisps of white lightning crackling around it. That was close. The female warrior breathed a sigh of relief. If she had been hit, it wouldn't have been just a temporary loss of an arm, but a severe injury and complete paralysis. Damn it, she gritted her teeth. Divine spell, charm wave. A pink wave enveloped Laming at incredible speed, giving him no time to dodge. Laming's expression changed slightly. Before he could even feel the strange sensation in his body, he looked at the woman in front of him. His heart suddenly skipped a beat, and he felt a surge of affection, a reluctance to attack. The female warrior's eyes flashed with joy upon seeing this. Although the charm fluctuation isn't as powerful as the charm spell, it's still very easy to fall for. Once hit by the charm fluctuation, she couldn't guarantee the person wouldn't attack, but they would definitely be restrained. Taking advantage of this opportunity, she would follow up with another charm. Charm, a pink energy pillar blasted towards her. Damn it, Laming's expression changed, and he instinctively activated his trump card. From inside his clothes, a small, transparent, teardrop-shaped object suddenly emitted a blue light. As the light enveloped him, his mind, previously affected by the spell, suddenly cleared, and he regained his senses. He quickly dodged, his movements swift and precise, avoiding the charm spell. Divine spell, lightning descend. Boom, boom, boom. Streaks of white and blue lightning suddenly appeared in the void above the female warrior's head, reaching her in the next second. The female warrior tried to dodge, but it was impossible. With a crackling sound, her hair stood on end, her body stiffened for a few seconds, and then she collapsed to the ground with a thud, kicking up a cloud of dust. Thunder had won. On the high platform. Just as I expected, the goddess of beauty pouted, then complained, "You used a semi-divine artifact again, Thunder God, you cheated. That mortal must have more than one semi-divine artifact, right?" she asked sourly. He even prepared a semi-divine artifact specifically to counter him. How outrageous. Ha ha ha, the Thunder God didn't care, his face full of smugness, laughing heartily. Suyun seemed thoughtful. He had discerned some of the Thunder God's divine magic. Not only was it powerful, but it was also incredibly fast. Most importantly, it had more than one semi-divine artifact. This was a nouveau riche, wasn't it? Just as he was pondering, some Thunder God followers climbed the steps onto the high platform. Suyun snapped back to reality, his attention turning to them. What were they up to? As the storage pouches at the waists of the Thunder believers flashed, several small wooden tables were placed around the gods. Then, one by one, white porcelain plates were placed on the tables. On these delicate, white plates were arranged various colorful fruits. As the Thunder believers withdrew, the Thunder God raised his right hand in a gesture of respect and smiled. "These are divine fruits bestowed upon us by the Thunder tribe. Everyone is welcome to try them." The gods didn't stand on ceremony. Some even immediately took a few bites of the fruit, suggesting this wasn't their first time experiencing this. They weren't surprised by the fruit itself, but they were certainly amazed by the beautiful porcelain plates on which it was displayed. The goddess of beauty's eyes lit up. "What are these plates? They're quite beautiful," she exclaimed. She had always loved beautiful things. Chapter 297 Mysterious Visitor. Seeing that most of the gods, except for a few, were curious, the god of thunder glanced at the god of light and explained, "These are specialties of the Yanhuan tribe. If you need them, you can trade with their tribe. They have more than just these good things." The gods of the Yanhuan tribe were surprised, their eyes involuntarily turning to Suyun. Besides their powerful strength, the Yanhuan tribe had other good things. However, since even the god of thunder thought they were good, they probably weren't bad. Most of the gods began to ponder whether they could establish good relations with the Yanhuang tribe in the future. The goddess of rock looked at the god of light with envy. The competition continued, but the god of thunder's warriors did not participate. Instead, they began to challenge one by one. Now, the followers of the god of speed, one of the third-level gods, were fighting below. An overwhelming battle was taking place below. On the high platform, Su Yun was eating when a question suddenly came from beside him. The god of fire hesitated for a long time, but finally couldn't resist asking dejectedly after shielding himself from the surroundings, "God of light, I haven't been able to advance for so long. When did you?" "Not long ago," Su Yun replied vaguely. The god of fire shook his head dejectedly. Advancing really was that easy? He couldn't sense any hardship from the god of light. He snapped back to reality. "I don't want to think about it anymore. This guy is a monster." He had a premonition that if he pressed further, he might be utterly crushed, so he wisely kept quiet. After a while, the god of fire smiled. "I have some divine fruits from my own tribe here." In the blink of an eye, he took out a white porcelain plate, also from the Yanhuang tribe, from his storage bag, with 5 or 6 divine fruits on it. The god of fire placed the plate on the god of light's table, a hearty smile spreading across his rugged face. "Don't be shy, Su Yun, so enthusiastic?" But since the other party had taken divine fruits, he felt a little awkward if he didn't offer something in return. After a moment's thought, he suddenly remembered something, and his eyes lit up slightly. His special ring flashed, and a white porcelain plate appeared in his hand. He ran his hand over the plate, and a dozen specially made white mana beads appeared on it. He then placed the plate on the Vulcan's table. "This is," the Vulcan asked, a hint of confusion on his face. Su Yun explained briefly, "This is also a specialty of our tribe." "Oh?" The Vulcan's eyes lit up at the mention of a specialty, and he quickly picked one up and tasted it. A chocolate ice cream flavor instantly filled his mouth. "It tastes great," he exclaimed. Su Yun wasn't surprised. Besides chocolate ice cream, these mana beads came in other ice cream flavors, even cream cake flavor. Eating this was exactly the same as eating the original. The texture was completely replicated. The forest goddess and the wind god, who were nearby, overheard his words and their eyes flashed with curiosity. The wind god couldn't help but ask, "Give me one to try." The Vulcan looked at the light god, seeking his opinion. Su Yun nodded, indicating that it was up to him. Soon, the forest goddess and the wind god also showed surprise on their faces. "What is this?" the wind god exclaimed, his eyes wide. Their situation quickly attracted the attention of the other gods. Before long, except for the rock goddess who was disdainful, every god tasted one, and then a look of pleasure appeared on their faces. The gods were even more curious about the god of light. Just as the gods were tasting the food and the competition was taking place below the stage, 2 people were rushing towards them from a great distance. Surprisingly, each of the 2 had a pair of huge gray wings on their backs. With a gentle flap, their speed instantly increased, and their rush towards the Thunder tribe at an extremely fast speed. The one flying slightly ahead, a fair-skinned, handsome young man in his 20s, suddenly revealed a sickly smile. "We need to hurry. I heard they are holding an exchange meeting. We can't miss such a good opportunity." As he spoke, he looked down at a clean yellow animal hide in his hand, on which various lines were drawn with black stuff, seemingly a map. He came an impatient laugh from behind. Su Yun's gaze was fixed on the battle platform. The Thunder tribe's warriors, aside from those being replaced, hadn't left the platform. Now, unsurprisingly, all the other tribes, except for themselves, had lost. The goddess of beauty glanced resentfully at the god of thunder. "What an annoying feeling. You're number 1 again, aren't you?" Once all the tribes had lost once, the first place would be decided without a doubt. The other 4th level or 3rd level gods shook their heads. Now, except for the followers of the god of light, they had all lost. The goddess of beauty, as if remembering something, suddenly chuckled. "The god of light should still have some hope. God of thunder, you'd better be careful. Don't lose at the last minute." "Don't worry." The god of thunder looked at Su Yun, a confident smile on his face. "I don't think I'll lose." The god of light has astonishing combat power, but that doesn't mean his followers have the same power. Moreover, his own foundation, such as the 3.5 divine artifacts his warriors carried, already gave him ample confidence. Hearing the words of the god of thunder, some of the gods who had still held on to hope for the god of light were now completely disheartened. Indeed, the god of light was the god of light, And his followers were followers, they were incomparable. The goddess of the forest smiled at Su Yun. Just do your best. The warriors of the Thunder tribe have several semi-divine artifacts, it's normal for them to lose, the god of Gale nodded. I believe the followers of the god of light will win, the god of fire laughed heartily. God of light, if you win, you'll get 10 level 5 faith crystals. You'll have to make him feel the pinch, of course, he only said this to comfort him. Su Yun smiled faintly, unconcerned about the god's skepticism. He gave a command to the threads of faith. All the gods' gazes turned to the battle platform, watching this final battle. Standing on the platform was the short, stocky youth who had started it. Yan Huang tribe, he shouted, who's going up? Come on. Among the crowd, the three men, including Mao, exchanged glances. Brother Mao, why don't you go? Li said. That's right, you're the strongest among the three of us, Quang agreed. Mao hesitated for a moment, then nodded seriously. Without a word, he strode towards the battle platform. Everyone was stunned to see a one-armed man go up. Had the Yan Huang tribe run out of people? Why send someone with a missing arm? Many were disappointed by the scene. Lei Ming, regaining his composure, grinned. Thunder tribe, level 3 divine warrior Lei Ming, Mao said in a deep voice. Yan Huang tribe, level 3 divine warrior Mao. Lei Ming nodded, then glanced at his left arm with a hint of regret. He muttered to himself, looks like that kid Yu's request was easily met. What good luck, he began to think about how to embarrass this man and make the Yan Huang tribe lose face. Thanks to Zhong Yan for the 100 Kidian coins reward. Thanks to Lulu for the 100 book coins reward. Chapter 298 Clash of Divine Arts. Lei Ming had been approached by Yu, who hoped to teach the Yan Huang tribe a lesson, and Lei Ming agreed without much thought. The situation with the god of light made him hesitate, but considering the strength of his own tribe, he felt reassured and decided to use the opportunity to suppress the arrogance of the Yan Huang tribe. Below the stage, Yu's heart skipped a beat. I forgot to tell Lei Ming to cancel the plan. This is terrible, he could only pray silently that Lei Ming wouldn't go too far. Watch out, I'm going, Lei Ming shouted. With that, he clenched his right hand, and a white lightning spear appeared in his grasp with a hissing sound. Divine magic, lightning spear, using divine magic right away, Yu was startled, staring intently at Lei Ming's right hand, extremely vigilant. However, to his surprise, Lei Ming didn't choose the method he'd seen before. Instead, he charged forward, the lightning spear aimed directly at him. Yu realized, and then clenched his right hand as well, strands of light gathering in his hand. First the hilt, then the blade. Soon, a long sword made of white light appeared in his hand. Divine magic, Lei Ming paused, surprised. No, that's not right, this wasn't divine magic, but rather energy condensation. Mao glanced at the longsword mimicking a god, a smile appearing on his face. Something condensed from energy dares to compare to divine magic, Lei Ming scoffed, and the next second, his meter-long lightning spear slashed straight at his opponent. The spear and his sword clashed. Boom! A loud crash resounded. Mao's expression changed slightly, his lightsaber dimmed slightly. See, Lei Ming said disdainfully as he continued his attack. Boom boom boom. Seeing the lightsaber about to dissipate under the impact, Mao finally unleashed his divine magic. Holy flame, boom. A ball of white flame erupted from his body, rapidly engulfing everything around him. The first to be consumed was Lei Ming, who had underestimated him. Not good, in the blink of an eye, the white flame rushed towards him, engulfing him completely. Ouch! Although he retreated, a sharp, burning pain still shot through him. Divine art, thunder armor, Lei Ming was enveloped in white flames, but strands of lightning quickly emerged from his body, instantly driving away the holy flames. Soon, the lightning formed a layer of lightning armor in the blink of an eye, enveloping him inside. The surrounding holy flames could no longer harm him before destroying the lightning armor. Lei Ming stood in the flames. See that? Your flames have no effect on me, he laughed loudly. Our Thunder Tribe's divine arts are not limited to the few I've used. You're doomed. Despite the burns all over his body, it didn't stop him from mocking and attacking his opponent. Mao frowned, and the next second he strode into the flames, a warm feeling washing over him. He slashed down at Lei Ming with his sword. Lei Ming wouldn't let him get so close. Divine art, thunder descent, a wave emanated from the top of Mao's head, causing his expression to change drastically. He realized what it was. Without a second thought, His body moved faster than his mind, leaping away with a powerful kick. Simultaneously, white light emanated from his body, forming a protective shield. The next second, boom boom boom, 5 bolts of white and blue lightning descended from the sky. With each explosion, several half-meter wide craters appeared instantly. And one bolt even grazed past the spear. Had the shield not provided some time, the spear would have been in serious trouble. Lei Ming stood amidst the fading white flames, looking at the spear's disheveled state, and laughed. "You don't have any other divine arts, do you? At this rate, you're bound to lose." Hearing Lei Ming's words, the crowd watched as the spear fell into a disadvantageous position. "It seems the Yanhuang tribe is going to lose. Lei Ming used so many divine arts. Isn't this bullying? What can we do? He still has several divine arts he hasn't used yet, and oh right, he has divine artifacts. The Thunder Tribe's foundation is truly terrifying," sighs echoed from the crowd. On the high platform, the Thunder God smiled broadly, already feeling victory was assured. The goddess of rock glanced mockingly at the god of light, thinking him naive to believe that the Thunder cultists were so easily defeated. If it were that simple, why would the god of thunder have given so many level 5 faith crystals? In all the competitions they'd participated in, the gods had almost never won. Even when they did, it was mostly luck. Suyun frowned slightly. "I almost forgot, I haven't bestowed any divine spells upon Spear yet." He pondered for a moment. To be on the safe side, I'll give him 2 divine spells first. With a thought, he entered the divine space, glanced at the numerous characters, and quickly selected 2. Golden Wheel, Eternal Night. On the battle stage, Spear, who was slightly panting, suddenly froze, noticing the unusual movement within his body. 2 illusory runes appeared within him. These are 2 new divine spells. His face lit up with joy. He even recognized one of them. It resembled the divine spell he had described, the one he had previously used. Thinking of the terrifying power of that spell, a fiery glint flashed in his eyes. Although he didn't know what the other one was, any divine art from a god would be incredibly powerful. Without thinking too much, he directly activated the divine art he recognized. A golden sphere instantly appeared behind him. Lei Ming's smile froze, his eyes filled with apprehension. "It's this divine art." The crowd's pessimistic pronouncement ceased, and they stared in astonishment at the golden sphere. They had witnessed the power of this divine art before. With this divine art, the outcome was truly unpredictable. A thought flashed through his mind, and the golden wheel was about to attack his opponent. After his initial apprehension, Lei Ming sneered and laughed loudly. "You really think I'm unprepared and can defeat you with this divine art? Don't even dream about it." Everyone was stunned. The next second, a scene that astonished everyone appeared. A flash of azure light surrounded Lei Ming, and when the light dissipated, 3 identical Lei Mings instantly appeared in the same spot. "Only one of me is real. Let's see how you attack." All 3 Lei Mings wore smug smiles. "It's one of the 3.5 divine artifacts," someone quickly realized and exclaimed in surprise. "What?" The spear's attacking hand paused. But he couldn't worry about that now. He activated his divine magic. Boom! A golden beam of light, moving at a speed that no one could react to, struck one of the figures directly. Lei Ting's pupils contracted, but the next second he breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness, the figure on the left had its abdomen pierced by the beam of light. Yet not a trace of blood was visible. "Unfortunately, you guessed wrong," Lei Ming smiled. He almost lost. This divine magic was truly terrifying. Divine magic, lightning descend, boom 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 boom. 5 more bolts of lightning struck down from the spear's head. The spear dodged. Unfortunately, even though he was careful and had anticipated the attack, he couldn't completely dodge this divine magic. Another bolt of lightning struck his white light shield directly. The lightning only paused slightly before piercing through the white light. With a crackling sound, the spear felt half of its body go numb and couldn't move at all. "I won," an excited flash crossed Lei Ming's face. Chapter 299. The final result is out. A moment of silence fell, followed by a burst of enthusiastic cheers. The god of thunder smiled, looking at the god of light, about to say something. However, just when everyone thought the outcome was decided, an unexpected change occurred. The light on the battle platform dimmed, plunging it into complete darkness. "What's going on? Why is it dark?" The scene of darkness truly terrified the people. The god of thunder smile froze, and he turned to look at the battle platform. "Thunder, who was about to deliver the final blow, immediately panicked upon seeing the complete darkness around him. Any creature accustomed to light would panic upon suddenly facing darkness, and he was no exception. If it weren't for the cries of alarm around him, he might have collapsed. After a while of panic, seeing that the surroundings were still completely dark, a guess popped into his mind. Could it be divine magic? He thought in shock and disbelief. Isn't he a follower of the God of Light? How could this be? He wasn't the only one shocked. After the initial panic, some people in the crowd also realized what was happening. A burly man shouted, "This must be divine magic." The initial panic of divine magic subsided, replaced by astonishment. They immediately ruled out the possibility of dark thunder. The opponent couldn't possibly use such divine magic. That meant, a follower of the God of Light. But how could that be? Wasn't he the God of Light? How could he possess dark magic? It wasn't just these mortals, the gods on the platform, except for the three who had already witnessed it, were equally astonished. Their gazes turned to the God of Light, their astonishment impossible to conceal. The God of Fire knew what they were thinking and couldn't help but defend him. The God of Light wields the power of light, isn't it normal for him to dispel it? He then glanced curiously at the other gods. The gods were speechless. Normal, my foot. At least they believed that if it were them, they would never have conceived of such an operation, eliminating light and letting darkness engulf everything. If they didn't know, they would have doubted whether the God of Light was actually the God of Darkness. After their initial shock, everyone turned their attention to the battle platform, eager to see the outcome. In the darkness, Laming, after his initial panic, heard the murmurs among the crowd and immediately calmed down. Since it was divine magic, then, he tightened his grip on the thunder spear, remembering the direction he had previously recalled, and suddenly threw it in one direction. Boom! A loud explosion. Laming looked on with anticipation, but as time quietly passed, his heart sank. Clearly, the thunder spear had not hit its target. If it had hit, the darkness should have disappeared. Just as he was thinking this, another semi-divine artifact on his body suddenly moved, and a passport appeared around him. What? By the time he reacted, a strong sense of crisis washed over him. Thudda! Laming groaned in pain. A searing pain shot through his waist. It felt as if his abdomen had been pierced. How could this be? He looked on in disbelief. He knew he had lost. He had witnessed the fate of that rock tribe member firsthand, and he realized what had struck him. Damn it! Amidst his intense resentment, the surrounding darkness gradually dissipated. When light once again filled the battle platform, everyone who had witnessed the scene was stunned. Laming cried out in pain, kneeling on the ground, a golden hole piercing his abdomen, his appearance utterly wretched. In contrast, Mao stood before him, holding a golden pillar, clearly indicating the outcome was decided. You lost, Mao laughed. Laming's face contorted, he gritted his teeth, trying to move, but the golden pillar in his abdomen held him firmly in place, preventing him from budging an inch. He wasn't a god. Even forcibly moving half his waist would result in being sliced open, and even with a divine fruit, survival was uncertain. However, he couldn't bring himself to admit defeat. The thought that their level 5 tribe had actually lost was unbearable for him. He had even been plotting how to humiliate Mao, and now he himself had ended up like this. Enough. Laming, admit defeat, a man in his 30s, who looked very imposing, shouted. Laming glanced at the man, his pale lips moved, and he said weakly, I admit defeat. Mao heard this and couldn't help but smile. As the golden pillar began to dissipate, specks of light drifted away. When the golden pillar disappeared, Laming couldn't hold back any longer and coughed up a mouthful of blood. Blood also seeped from his almost roasted abdomen. Seeing this, Mao unleashed a pale green light. You? Laming was startled, thinking he was about to attack. The Thunder Clan members were also in a panic and wanted to step forward to stop him. Wait, Laming quickly stopped him, the strange movement at his waist startling him. The flesh writhed rapidly, the parts that had been roasted seemingly infused with life, the wounds healing quickly. Laming stared at the wounds in disbelief. The crowd also witnessed this, their mouths agape. Is this a divine healing spell? The effect is almost as good as the top-tier healing fruit. A cacophony of voices arose. Soon, when the light energy within Mao's body was almost exhausted, he stopped the healing process. By this time, Laming's injuries had mostly healed. Had his flesh not been roasted, he might be completely healed by now. Thank you. Laming looked at Mao with a complex expression. Mao shook his head and turned to walk off the battle platform. Just then, a cheer erupted around him, causing him to pause. Unlike last time, this cheer was for Mao. Mao looked around in surprise, seeing everyone looking at him excitedly, some even with eyes full of admiration. On the high platform, the god of thunder sighed, turned to the god of light, and said with a pained expression, "You won." Upon hearing this, all the gods except the goddess of rock smiled. Finally won again, he. The goddess of beauty smiled at the god of thunder. The god of fire and the others congratulated Su Yun. Impressive, 10 level 5 faith crystals, tisk. The god of thunder had nothing more to say. Since he had lost, he wouldn't renege on his debt. With a wave of his hand, 10 bright, shimmering faith crystals, radiating a strong aura and swirling with dense white mist, were sent to the god of light. Enough for several blessing spells. Su Yun looked at the 10 faith crystals, a slight smile playing on his lips. He gently placed them into a special ring. Just as the results of the competition were announced, a continuous rumbling sound came from dozens of kilometers away. Thank you, not mature enough for the 1,888 book coins reward. Thank you Luojiu11 for the 300 Kidian coins reward. Thank you Jenny for the 200 reading points reward. Thank you for the 200 Kidian coins donation. Thank you for the 100 Kidian coins donation. Thank you for the 100 Kidian coins donation. Thank you everyone. Cap 3 Cap. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 300. Who is the most beautiful goddess? Towering trees stood tall. Roar, a deafening roar echoed, filled with fury. Trees fell one after another, the crashes resounding. The source of the roar was a massive tiger, radiating a powerful aura, its physique enormous. It glared angrily at the two people before it. A level 5 beast? A disdainful female voice rang out. Hurry up and finish it off, we still have a long way to go, the young man said impatiently. Above the tiger, the two figures flew through the air, a pair of gray wings appearing behind them. I know, the female voice scoffed. The words had barely left her lips when a massive gray energy pillar crashed down from the sky. The tiger had no time to react and was struck instantly, its mournful cry abruptly cut short. The tiger collapsed to the ground, bloodied and splattered with dust. One strike instantly killed a beast comparable to a level 4 god. Seeing the tiger's death, the young man smiled with pleasure. How, gone, with a flap of his gray wings, he left only a blur in his wake, instantly appearing in the distance. The woman quickly chased after him. The two of them rushed towards the Thunder Tribe at an incredible speed. Laming, you lost? You gave an awkward laugh, unsure how to face this guy. Laming, who was being carried off the battle platform and eating a healing fruit, glared at him. It's all your fault. You lied to me before the match, saying the Yanhuang tribe was easy to deal with, making me lose face. You wait, once I'm healed, I'll see how I deal with you. Oh, I have to go. You, enduring Lei Ming's angry glare, slipped away without another word. Once he reached a secluded corner, he sighed. Recalling his previous underestimation of the Yanhuang tribe, Lei Ming's defeat had directly hit him hard, even his sense of superiority had almost vanished. On the high platform, the Thunder God said, let's have a free competition from now on. You can fight each other as you please, the gods nodded. Soon, two divine warriors stepped onto the stage. The gods watched the contest, but the goddess of beauty grew bored. Suddenly, she had an idea and chuckled softly. The gods turned, looking at her with suspicion. What was so funny? Facing their gazes, the goddess of beauty smiled and said, the contest is over, and I'm quite bored now. How about I do something for you to decide the winner? Oh, the god's interest was immediately piqued, wondering what the goddess of beauty was up to. The goddess of beauty glanced at the goddess of rock, then looked around with a beaming smile, saying, the goddess of rock and I have been arguing about appearances for a long time, so this time I want you to make your judgment on that. The gods suddenly understood, realizing what the goddess of beauty was planning. Indeed, the goddess of beauty and the goddess of rock had always been at odds, initially over appearances, so it was understandable that they were now considering who was more beautiful. So, are you in or not? The goddess of beauty's gaze shifted, looking at the goddess of rock with a provocative expression. HMPH, The goddess of rock glanced disdainfully at the goddess of beauty. She considered herself the most beautiful of all the gods. How could she possibly fear such a blatant challenge? Then let's begin, the god of thunder urged, leering at them. The goddess of beauty rose from her throne, swaying her graceful figure as she slowly walked to the center of the platform. Not to be outdone, the goddess of rock, her face cold, followed her with her long, white legs. Tell me, how do you want to compete? She asked impatiently. We both think we're more beautiful, so there's no way to determine a winner? The goddess of beauty laughed. Why don't we just let the other gods choose and see who gets more picks? That should be fair, right? Sure, the goddess of rock agreed, nodding in agreement. The goddess of beauty blinked her beautiful eyes. Then I'll leave the rest to you. With a flick of her wrist, she suddenly removed the pink veil from her face. As the veil slowly fell to the ground, a breathtaking face appeared before everyone's eyes. Her face was fair, her features exquisitely perfect, possessing an ultimate beauty. Coupled with her innate allure, this elevated her to an even higher level. For a moment, everyone except Su-Yun was stunned by the goddess's face. Even Su-Yun had to admit that this face was more beautiful than that of a heavily edited movie star. Because of her exceptionally good natural skin, she didn't have the heavy makeup look of those celebrities, possessing a natural beauty. It was as if she were under a full-fledged beauty filter. The mortals with better visibility below the stage were completely mesmerized by the goddess's appearance. The goddess of rock's expression changed. Seeing the god's gazes shift away from her, she knew perfectly well the goddess's wicked intentions. Damn it, no wonder she wears a veil, she cursed inwardly, truly a vile woman. So, who do you all think is the most beautiful goddess? The goddess smiled brightly, gracefully twirling around, brimming with confidence. The god of thunder's aggressive gaze swept over them, finally settling on the goddess. Although their appearances were very similar, the alluring charm of the goddess of beauty was truly captivating. He stroked his beard and laughed loudly. I choose the goddess of beauty, goddess of beauty. As voices rang out, the goddess of rock's face grew increasingly dark and grim. In the end, besides two who chose her, 4 chose the goddess of beauty. The goddess of rock's face was almost turning pale. However, remembering that 2 gods hadn't chosen, he immediately looked over. Seeing that the god of fire and the god of light hadn't chosen, her expression changed slightly. The goddess of beauty was also somewhat puzzled and asked curiously, why didn't you choose? I abstained, Su-Yun said, so the result is already clear. Even if he hadn't abstained, he wouldn't have chosen the goddess of rock, so this guy was bound to lose. The goddess of beauty's smile widened. However, after the god of light explained, she was curious why the god of fire hadn't chosen either. Had he also abstained? She looked at the god of fire with her beautiful eyes. The other gods followed suit. Seeing everyone looking at him, the god of fire laughed awkwardly. I also forfeit. Although the goddess of beauty and the goddess of rock were beautiful, he felt they couldn't compare to the god of light beside him, so he simply forfeited as well. The goddess of beauty, though puzzled, didn't think much of it and turned to look arrogantly at the goddess of rock. Looks like I won. The goddess of rock glared fiercely at the god of light, then sneered at the goddess of beauty. HMPH, I won't admit it. Don't think I can't see through your intentions just because you're wearing a veil. A loss is a loss. Looks like you can't accept defeat, huh? The goddess of beauty didn't care, glancing at her mockingly. The goddess of rock was unwilling to accept this. She believed she was no less beautiful than the goddess of beauty, and how could she accept it because of a veil? In her extreme resentment, she suddenly thought of something, her eyes lighting up. The goddess of rock sneered, HMPH, this isn't fair. I don't approve of your chosen method. I want to try another way. The gods looked at her, their faces full of curiosity. Chapter 301 The Shocked Gods. What method? The goddess of beauty asked confidently, showing no fear. The goddess of rock slapped her storage bag, and under the watchful eyes of the gods, something appeared in her hand. It was a clay pot filled with black soil, upon which grew a beautiful flower. The flower was pink, somewhat resembling a rose, its petals translucent and faintly glowing with pink light, making it exceptionally beautiful. What is this? The goddess of beauty asked in surprise. What a beautiful flower, the god of hunting exclaimed. Hearing this, the goddess of rock's face was full of pride. This is a divinely bestowed plant, you've all seen it, haven't you? As for its effects, just pluck a petal, and it will turn into pink light, selecting and surrounding the most beautiful thing within a certain range. This flower will choose for us who is the most perfect, the goddess of rock sneered. The gods were astonished. Such a magical flower, they were amazed, examining the pink flower closely. Suyun and the god of fire, upon hearing this, both changed their expressions. The god of fire secretly glanced at the god of light. If the goddess of rock isn't lying, Suyun frowned, sighing inwardly at this troublesome situation. He hesitated whether to stop her, but it seemed he had no reason to, not to mention his relationship with the goddess of rock. Is it really that magical? The goddess of beauty looked skeptical, hesitating for a moment before saying, "Then you try it first." The goddess of rock said smugly, "This flower won't show favoritism, it's absolutely fair. Let's see what other schemes you have this time." Of course, while she said this, she had actually tampered with the flower. Originally, it was indeed very fair, as long as a petal was plucked, and not just limited to people, the pink light would choose the most beautiful thing. But after she made some changes, such as turning the flower into her own divinely bestowed plant, it wouldn't be absolutely fair anymore. Instead, it would favor her. With their similar appearances, the goddess of rock was confident that she would definitely win. Under the watchful eyes of the gods, she carefully plucked a pink petal. The moment the petal left the flower, a strange change occurred. The petal instantly transformed into pink light, like a ribbon, incredibly beautiful. The ribbons hovered above the gods' heads, seemingly choosing their direction. The goddess of beauty frowned, while the goddess of rock, smug and self-satisfied, seemed to already see the ribbons flying towards her. "Indeed, I am the most perfect." However, the next second, she froze. Not only her, but even the goddess of beauty and the god of thunder were dumbfounded. The ribbons floated in the air for a while, then flew in an unexpected direction completely opposite to their positions. "What's going on?" the goddess of beauty demanded. The goddess of rock was also shocked, stammering, "I don't know." Then, they stopped talking, because the place where the ribbons finally stopped left the gods speechless. The ribbons flew slowly but resolutely, finally reaching the god of light, circling him as if cheering with joy. "God of light, what's going on?" The gods were dazed, wondering if they were not fully conscious or if they were hallucinating. Otherwise, why didn't the ribbon choose the most beautiful goddesses, the goddess of beauty and the goddess of rock? Even if it didn't choose them, they could barely accept choosing the goddess of the forest. But now, what did it mean to choose a male god? The gods' expressions at this moment were nothing but astonishment. No, there was one exception, and that was the god of fire. The god of fire had an expression of "I knew it." Suyun looked at the ribbon beside him and couldn't help but twitch his lips. He was sitting at home when trouble came from nowhere. How did he inexplicably get involved in the contest between two goddesses? He felt exhausted. The goddess of beauty questioned, "Is there something wrong with this flower? Otherwise, why would it choose the god of light?" The goddess of rock was already very angry that the ribbon had chosen her enemy. Hearing this, she said confidently, "There is a problem, but this time it definitely won't be wrong." As she spoke, she picked another pink petal. Another ribbon appeared, followed by a scene that astonished the gods once more. The ribbon was once again drifting towards the god of light. "Impossible," the goddess of rock screamed, her eyes filled with disbelief. Without a word, her hand moved swiftly. 1, 2, 3 ribbons. The goddess of rock watched expectantly as 3 new ribbons appeared in the air. However, seeing the ribbons heading towards her enemy again, she nearly went mad. The gods were filled with confusion, not quite understanding what was happening. The goddess of rock screamed, "Impossible. How could the flower keep making mistakes? Unless the god of light is more beautiful than us, how could—" Her voice trailed off, her eyes wide with disbelief. The god of thunder and the other gods trembled, staring at the god of light in shock. Reminded, they finally understood. Indeed, there was only one possibility, yet they couldn't believe it. A male god's appearance had completely overshadowed all the goddesses. Just how exaggerated must his looks be to achieve such a result? Just thinking about the exquisite beauty of the goddess of beauty and the goddess of rock, and how he could outshine them, left them speechless. "I don't believe it," the goddess of rock glared at the god of light with resentment, utterly disbelieving the outcome. Not only was he inferior to the goddess of beauty, but he couldn't even compare to a male god. How could this be? Losing her temper, she grabbed the entire flower and flung it into the sky. Streaks of pink light rained down, a breathtaking sight. The goddess of rock, with a final glimmer of hope, stared intently at the dozens of ribbons. The ribbons paused in the air for a moment, then, without a word or hesitation, floated straight towards the god of light. Suyun looked utterly helpless. The gods stared blankly, their expressions fixed on the god of light, who appeared even more extraordinary against a backdrop of the Rubens. The goddess of rock's hope vanished, replaced by utter despair. She couldn't win in terms of strength, and now she'd inexplicably lost in terms of looks too. She gritted her teeth. The goddess of beauty, after a moment of stunned silence, turned and noticed the goddess of rock's expression. She immediately realized that the flower must be fine, otherwise, this wretched woman wouldn't be acting this way. That meant she had lost too. Both goddesses had lost. She couldn't even compare to a male god, which made her feel hurt and defeated. God of light, are you really that handsome? The god of gale asked blankly. The goddess of the forest scanned the light. As a goddess, she was also very concerned about her appearance. The god of thunder looked at the god of light with a probing gaze, wishing he could pierce through the light to see what was behind it. No matter who it was, their curiosity was almost overflowing, like a cat scratching at them. Even the goddess of beauty and the goddess of rock were stunned by her beauty. What about the god of light? They really didn't know what kind of face was hidden beneath that light. Chapter 302 The Enemy. The gods thought that the god of light's appearance was shrouded in light, and no one had ever seen it. Who could deny that he couldn't surpass the goddess of beauty and the goddess of rock? Because of this, they developed a strong curiosity about the god of light's appearance. Seeing their expressions, the goddess of rock immediately declared with certainty, "There's definitely something wrong with the flower." Unfortunately, the gods remained non-committal and didn't listen. Once or twice was fine, but so many times and it still went wrong, there must be a reason. After a moment of silence, the god of hunting couldn't resist his curiosity. "Could we see your face?" The god stared intently at the god of light. Suyun, of course, refused this request. He wasn't the kind of person to show off. How could he possibly expose his face to a crowd? Sorry, he shook his head. Hearing his refusal, the god's eyes showed regret, but they couldn't force him, so they could only suppress their thoughts for the time being. The gods didn't continue the topic of appearance. The war between the goddess of rock and the goddess of beauty ended in an unexpected Waterloo. Neither of them received the title of most beautiful. No, or rather, they all vaguely believed that perhaps the god of light was the most perfect one. With the first place secured, attention naturally waned for the second and third. For a time, most of the gods' gazes, previously fixed on the goddess of beauty and the goddess of rock, shifted to the god of light. Seeing this, the goddess of rock was furious, almost exploding on the spot. Even the goddess of beauty was somewhat annoyed, wondering why she had brought this upon herself. Now, a strange and formidable enemy was looming over them. And as long as the god of light didn't reveal his true face, they would remain suppressed, and the title of most perfect would be out of their reach. Even if the god of light revealed his face, with the prophecy of the goddess of rock's flower, she had no confidence that she could surpass him. Thus, the gods continued watching the competition with a loss of interest. After a while, the god of hunting suddenly spoke. "Time's almost up. God of thunder, this is your offering." With that, he took out a level 5 faith crystal from his storage bag and used his divine power to present it to the god of thunder. The god of thunder was taken aback, then burst into laughter. Alright, he reached out and accepted the level 5 faith crystal. After accepting the hunting god's offering, the god of thunder's gaze involuntarily turned to the other gods. The goddess of beauty stared with her large, watery eyes, pitifully asking, "Can I not give it to you? What do you think?" The god of thunder looked at her with amusement in his eyes. Suddenly remembering something, he stroked his white beard and said lecherously, "If you agree to what I said, I won't take your share in the future. I'll give it." "I'll give it, okay." The goddess of beauty rolled her eyes at him resentfully, and hurriedly offered him a level 5 faith crystal. Looking at that level 5 faith crystal, she immediately felt a pang of heartache. Suyun, watching the actions of the goddess of beauty and the hunting god, couldn't help but feel puzzled. He asked the god of fire beside him, "What does this mean?" The god of fire hesitated for a moment, then remembered that the god of light was attending the exchange meeting for the first time, and began to explain. "Every time we attend an exchange meeting, near the end, as agreed long ago, we offer a faith crystal to the god of thunder. Different tribes have different levels, so the level of faith crystal required for the offering also varies. A level 4 large tribe needs a level 5 faith crystal, but we only need one level 4 faith crystal." He paused here, then remembered something and said awkwardly, "I almost forgot. Based on your strength, your tribe is equivalent to a level 4 large tribe, so you need to offer a level 5 faith crystal." "What?" Su Yun was stunned. Hearing about offering a level 5 faith crystal, he frowned, his face hidden by the light. The god of fire, knowing the god of light's feelings, sighed, "There's nothing we can do. The god of thunder is a 5th level god, after all, and we can't refuse this request. However, it's not all bad. According to the previous agreement, although we will offer faith crystals, we can also ask the god of thunder for help when we encounter an insurmountable enemy." Su Yun's lips twitched slightly. What kind of benefit was this? Encountering an insurmountable enemy, in that situation, wouldn't they usually be doomed? Having time to ask the god of thunder for help was just a double-edged sword. The god of fire then added, "However, god of light, this is your first time participating, so you don't need to offer any tribute this time." During their conversation, all the other gods, except for the god of fire, took out their faith crystals. Seeing this, the god of fire also offered a 4th level faith crystal. The god of thunder stroked his chin, laughing heartily, in a very pleasant mood. Su Yun watched this scene and fell silent, thinking to himself, is this equivalent to a small country offering tribute to a large country? Indeed, everywhere, these things are the same. It's always the survival of the fittest. In the end, it's all about strength. Sigh. Su Yun sighed inwardly. If his strength reached level 5, he wouldn't need to worry about the god of thunder. Right now, using a blessing spell, he could easily defend himself against the god of thunder, but he wasn't confident he could defeat him. The power of thunder also made him somewhat wary. Forcibly reversing the difference in their cultivation levels wasn't so easy. It seems I'll have to go back to the modern world immediately after this trip and play the role of the sun god to gain faith, Su Yun secretly decided. This feeling of being controlled by others was really uncomfortable. Once he reached level 5, he was confident that even if the god of thunder possessed a very powerful thunderous authority, he could defeat him. At that time, he naturally wouldn't need to offer any so-called tributes. At this moment, the yearning to become stronger reappeared in his heart. My strength isn't strong enough, he thought, when the god of thunder on the platform smiled and said, "This exchange meeting is almost over. You are free to choose to leave or stay for a while. Please do as you please." The gods nodded, but none of them intended to stay. They all prepared to return to their tribes. The god of hunting stood up. "Then I'll go first." Just as he was about to say god of departure, he suddenly stopped, his expression changing slightly, and abruptly turned his head to look behind him. Not only him, but the other gods also sensed it quickly or slowly, turning their heads to stare sharply behind them. Su Yun felt two powerful auras rapidly approaching from afar, and the other party made no attempt to conceal them. Who were they? In a short while, two figures appeared in their sight, a man and a woman, both appearing to be in their 20s. The man was tall and handsome, the woman had a graceful figure and a beautiful face. However, the aura emanating from these two was somewhat strange. Those are wings. Su Yun's gaze swept over the gray wings a few more times. The tens of thousands of mortals below, seeing the two people flying in the air, couldn't help but feel a little flustered. "Who are you?" The god of thunder stood up with a burly body, his expression serious. "Looks like we're not too late, just in time," the handsome young man smiled. "Yes," the beautiful woman beside him agreed. As the two spoke, they glanced at the gods, their eyes revealing disdain. This look made the god of thunder's forward veins throb. If he hadn't sensed that these two's aura was no weaker than his, he would have definitely given them a piece of his mind. The other gods weren't much better, coldly watching them. The handsome man ignored their gazes and smiled. "My name is Zifen." The beautiful woman smiled sweetly. "My name is Ziyin. What are your purposes?" Thunder's eyes were sharp. These two clearly came with ill intentions. Zifen grinned, revealing a ferocious smile. "We are from the Z tribe. We've come here today at the request of our father god to have you submit to him." "What?" The god's expressions turned grim. Where did this crazy tribe come from, daring to demand their submission? Ridiculous. Even when facing the god of thunder, the god's relationship wasn't one of submission, but rather a tacit cooperation. Where did these two tribes get the audacity to utter such words? In an instant, the god's gazes towards them not only turned cold but were also filled with murderous intent. Upon hearing the words Father God, Su Yun frowned and said, "You are the children of God." The two looked at him with some surprise. Zifen clicked his tongue in amazement as he sized up Su Yun. "I didn't realize you, a god from such a remote corner, had so much knowledge." Su Yun told himself to restrain himself, to resist the urge to use the Ark of the Covenant to kill them. Ziyin chimed in, "That's right, We are the children of the supreme god of evil. Father God sent us here to make you submit to him." The gods frowned. No wonder they had sensed something strange about these two earlier, a kind of divine aura, but not quite. They were indeed the offspring of God. They had never heard of the god of evil, but hearing the words of so-called submission, they only felt humiliated. Seeing the god's ugly expressions, Zephen sneered, "Don't be ungrateful. The greatness of our Father God is beyond your imagination. To submit to our Father God is your honor?" Zephen chuckled, "Truly barbaric gods of the forest, utterly lacking in self-awareness, you come from outside the forest," the forest goddess asked in surprise. The forest was vast, even these gods had never ventured outside, and had no idea of its extent. Although this was partly due to the gods' lack of intention to venture out, even the distance they had unintentionally covered was immense. So, how far must these two's tribe be from here? That's right, Z surveyed the tribe's situation, his face full of arrogance. Our tribe possesses a city, far beyond what your tiny tribe can compare to. Alright, enough nonsense. Give me your answer now. I hope you won't be so ungrateful, otherwise, the information about the city that had appeared in such a short time gave the gods, except for Suyun, a headache. Suyun pondered, muttering to himself, "They've even developed to the point of building cities, but it's nothing special. If he wanted to, he believed he could build a city himself. It was just a matter of having a tall city wall." The gods thought for a while, then stopped worrying about the city and focused their attention on the issue of submission. The god of thunder glanced at the gods and immediately understood their meaning. He sneered, "Two little bastards, you don't even have godhood yet you're so arrogant. Get lost." "What did you say?" The two who had been looking at the gods with arrogance and disdain were completely stunned, unable to believe their ears. What did he mean by bastards? This was what they cared about most. As demigods, although they had divine blood, they lacked godhood, which made them feel a deep sense of inferiority. Especially when facing true gods, their jealousy and inferiority led them to vent their emotions on them. They enjoyed the feeling of being high above and looking down on the gods. It made them feel very comfortable. Hearing the words of the god of thunder, their heads buzzed with rage. "Damn it, die!" the two screamed, simultaneously unleashing their attacks, slamming downwards. Two gray energy orbs, each tens of meters in diameter, emitted terrifying fluctuations. Not good. They're equivalent to ordinary level 6, the god of hunting's expression changed. Two beings equivalent to level 5 gods, aside from the god of thunder, none of the gods can withstand them. HMPH, the god of thunder snorted coldly, waving his hand to create a massive lightning barrier that directly blocked the two gray energy orbs. Boom. Boom. A deafening roar echoed as the two collided. Seeing their attacks blocked, the gods had barely breathed a sigh of relief when their expressions changed again. The lightning crackled and continuously annihilated the gray energy, even subtly exerting a restraining effect. However, facing two enemies equivalent to level 5 gods, the lightning barrier gradually began to recede, unable to hold on any longer. The god of thunder's face darkened. "It even has a restraining effect," Zephen frowned, then relaxed. It was only a slight restraining effect. In a 1-on-2 situation, the god of thunder was doomed to lose. Just as the thunder barrier gradually descended, the god of thunder couldn't hold back any longer and shouted to the other gods, "Help me!" His gaze involuntarily fell on Suyun and the other 4th-level gods. Although 4th-level gods couldn't deal with those at the level of 5th-level gods, they could still lend a hand. After speaking, the god of thunder focused his attention back on the sky and used a divine technique. He shouted sharply, "Thunder descend!" Zephen and the other, who were looking smug, couldn't help but change their expressions. In the void, ripples appeared, and the next second, boom boom boom. Deafening thunder resounded throughout the heavens and earth. Countless bolts of lightning descended from the sky, heading straight for the two of them. Seeing this, the two of them no longer cared about maintaining the gray energy ball, exchanged a glance, and then joined hands. A huge circular shield formed by the two of them enveloped them directly. Boom. Thunderbolts pounded relentlessly, but they couldn't penetrate the protective barrier for a short time. "Don't think you're the only one who knows divine magic," Zephen sneered. Evil feathers, with a flap of their wings, gray feathers stood on end, and in the next instant, they shot out, 4 enormous torrents of feathers piercing through the barrier and hurtling towards the gods on the platform. Faced with these 4 terrifying attacks, not only did the god of thunder change color, but the other gods could no longer hold back and all chose to attack. The goddess of beauty shouted, "Charm unleashed!" A huge pink torrent shot straight towards the feathers. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.